So Hooksy wasn't the first choice, you're saying?
Not the first options. From what I hear, it's more than one. And as far as I could tell, like neither of them were Hooksy. Because I mean, if Astralis came knocking on Hooksy's door, do you think there's no way that he would say? If there's any world that he would say no? Like there's no world. There's no world where they. No. It wasn't Glaive.
So it's
not. No. It's further up, and I don't want to talk about names because I don't know what that could imply. But you're thinking in-game leaders everywhere, which is interesting. But
wait,
okay.
So it wasn't. So they weren't even looking to get an in-game leader?
The world is changing quickly. Shut up. The world is changing. But one thing remains the same. Victories with 1xBet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph, and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at hltv.org/shop.
New intro, same HLTV Confirmed. Welcome back to another episode of HLTV Confirmed, brought to you by Skin Place. If you want to sell some skins, you can head over to Skin Place or 1xBet. Remember to gamble responsibly. We're back. We're on a bit of a hiatus during ESL Pro League. I could just call it Pro League because I'm not on the broadcast. I don't have to be forced to try and say ESL every time. We'll just say Pro League. Isn't that fun? Much easier. Comes off the tongue. We got Prof, we got Striker, we got Lucas. And that intro was pretty, Prof. It was nice. You know, it had pictures of us and players, and it was slick.
Videos even.
Crazy. That's true.
Yeah.
It was videos.
Only took us a month.
You mean like 5 years since we last did? Or what did we start? What did we start the Confirmed with
now
this
it's in
intro?
the logo. It's in the logo. 2018. It's literally since 2018 the same intro that's been going on. And it doesn't even make any sense because the original Confirmed wasn't a podcast. It was like a news show. It was completely different. So it is what it is.
It was originally a post on the forums, wasn't it?
That is true.
Yeah.
The name is actually, I pushed for this name, even though I wasn't like originally involved in Confirmed. I just thought it's a meme. It's a good meme. We should use memes.
Definitely. I think we should really now discuss the etymology of the term meme and how it's just evolved from the word joke. And now the kids are probably calling it something else in the modern day. Lucas, are you a Zoomer? Nah, we lost him. He's gone already. Oh, well, you've got to work that out, don't you? All right, fine. We'll probably work that out for season 8. So that'll probably happen in about 3 years or something along those lines.
How are you doing, Chad? You survived?
Today was like my try to rest day.
Sorry
I
about
don't
that.
know. I'm still no. This is fine. This is different. I'm just a bit scatterbrained. A long 3 weeks. Obviously, a lot of things happened within those 3 weeks. There was the whole Maniac situation. Yanko was late because he was having a kid. So then we were down a couple of extra people.
I have a banger screenshot on my phone just from Yanko celebrating the birth of his child, and for some reason he decided to share all of the drunk Instagram stories from his friends and stuff. So it all came through on my feed. I'm like, this is so great. It's one with his like shirt torn,
ripped. Is that a cultural thing? Do you know what that's about? I didn't ask Yanko what that's about.
Like tearing your shirt or just like celebrating the birth? Like I was explaining both. I was explaining to my girlfriend, like, so how does this work? Like is the woman celebrating as well? As like, obviously no, she just like gave birth. She can't. She's like chilling in the hospital probably, and then the man and the rest of the gang just get mega wasted celebrating. And then when you get mega wasted, you probably like tear your shirts, and because there's a banger emotional song going on and you're singing and you're like, you just tear it in half. That's kind of how it works.
Okay. I did think anything from that part of the world was probably going to be followed with a lot of alcohol. So, you know, that seems to be the way things go. And then the poor woman who gave birth just like is probably absolutely destroyed in hospital. Just like, what this fucking, yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, look, and then we had, obviously Steel came in. And then on the last day, both Steel and Henry were sick, so we didn't have them. Harry had to go home for some reasons that I'm sure he'll tell the internet about maybe one day, but it's not my place, so I'll leave it for Harry. It's nothing bad. I just want to, we're considering like the controversy recently. It's nothing bad. It's a nice thing, but yeah, that's Harry's place to tell the world about that if he ever wants to. Striker, what have you been up to?
I was on vacation.
Where did you go?
I was in Antalya in Turkey. It was
you're
pretty
supposed
great.
to come to Croatia, but you canceled.
I was supposed to come to Croatia, and then like all the fucking, I don't know how many people know about this, but Central Europe got hit by crazy rain, and we had shitloads of flooding, and it kind of spilled over to the south of Europe as well. And it just got to a point where Croatia was like on like 10 degrees like the first week of September, and it was just not going to be a very nice vacation. So I literally, few days before we were supposed to go, I just booked Antalya because it was like 30 degrees there all week, completely sunny, of course. So we just needed to go somewhere else.
Fair enough. All right. Well, look, we're here now. The final of Pro League just ended. There's been lots of drama, boys. I don't know where we want to start this evening. I guess we'll start with Pro League. It's the freshest, right? That would make the most sense. Do we have bumpers and stuff? I don't point me talking to Lucas. I'll talk to Prof. Prof, do we have bumpers and stuff?
No,
still?
we
Like,
don't. We don't have any bumpers. We just vibe now. We just vibe. We change the topics. Do you have the new thing to change the topics?
I'm looking at the new thing right now. Yeah.
The URL now has SPUNJ in the URL, so that's it. We just have very basic but very nice HUD, and that's kind of it.
Very clean.
Maybe maybe people want the bumpers back. We bring the bumpers back. There's a lot of possibilities. It's not done. You know, the intro is there. Maybe there's some updates to the intro. Maybe there are little Easter eggs over time. You know, maybe we change some stuff.
Is this the same bullshit that Valve pulled with like, okay, this is like a new engine and it allows us to do so many new things, and then nothing happens for the rest of the year?
Then actually all the things that used to work well work shit, and the new things never come. So that's kind of what we're doing here.
All right.
All right. Well, let's get into it. So I can click this button, and something's going to change on the screen. I assume. Yeah, look, that thing lit up, and then if I hit, I don't want to start with Navi being the. Actually, yeah, that's fine. We can start with Navi being the champions. But I suppose with us discussing this, we should just quickly summarize things. So ESL Pro League 3-week event, 32 teams all over the world. We ended up with a 16-team single elimination bracket that starts with a round of 16. It goes into a round of 12, goes into quarterfinals, and depending on your placement within the group, would depend on where you started within said playoff bracket. And Navi come out on top in a pretty labored best-of-5 grand final over a surprise of Eternal Fire, who were on the side of the bracket where I think everybody was expecting Vitality to be the team, locking and loading themselves in for another grand final appearance, whereas Navi's side of the bracket was pretty stacked. There was G2, Navi, Liquid, FaZe was down there. I'm sure there's some other names that I'm missing. Spirit, yep, obviously, right. Now, I want to start with. Let's just start with the drama first, because I like the drama. I've been like arguing with this language that I wish like we could use still, but we can't use it anymore because otherwise people don't like it and then we get cancelled. So it's a bit of a shame. But there's some people with brain deficiencies. Let's go there. People might assume what type of terminology I was thinking about.
I literally just had like a editorial standards meeting today about some kind of like overarching document that we're gonna have like kind of for all websites and stuff like that. And I'm like, in Counter-Strike, it's kind of like fairly accepted, like certain words, but we never go to we never feature anything too crazy. And you were just about to say a word that I think would have been.
Oh, I definitely wasn't about to say it. Okay. Don't you worry about that. I might be thinking it, but I'm not saying it. But I put out a tweet because I saw the back and forth with what Blade said and then what Madja said, and I was like, with that moment that's being discussed, I saw like a lot of Reddit comments about it as well. There's the JL one on Ancient, where he's in the 1v3 or the 1v4 situation, right? And then Madja has the kit and is going for the defuse. And then then after that, Blade gives a thumbs up to the Eternal Fire fans. And then the other one is the Madja one on the B site in the 1v1. It's a 2v2 situation as the bomb's getting planted. Bit pushes through the door. He kills the planter. Madja gets the trade. Wonderful's coming through tunnels, changes to an M4 from the AWP. As he's coming to clear through upper tunnels, makes a step. Madja hears the step, turns around, kills him. Now, as that happened, I was casting that with Jason and Alex at the time. And because we're talking and the POVs are changing and we're reacting, I didn't hear a step, but that's because I don't even know where we were.
I was watching, and I was just watching like without.
Yeah. I mean, the video that you posted on Twitter, I watched it on my PC without headphones, just on my speakers.
Yeah.
Like from Major's perspective, I do not hear the step either. Like you need to literally have headphones on, like full on focus. And from what I think, he even said that he didn't hear it, but someone on his team did and called it for him. And like you heard the step,
Yeah.
So that's why there's also like a weird, felt like a bit of a delayed reaction from Major to do that. But it's very hard to hear that on the cast. Impossible, probably.
Yeah, but in the tweet that I put out, it had the POV of two individuals, obviously Madja, who is hearing the step. Now, there's a bug because GoTV or CS2 TV or CSTV, whatever the fuck we're calling it these days, has it so you can hear sounds that you can't hear from a player's POV. For example, the changing, like pulling out the gun, you hear like the quick change sound. You can't hear that, obviously, in case people are unfamiliar with that, but you can definitely hear the step. Because
also the thrown, like even there was the thrown gun that maybe got missed at the beginning.
He wouldn't have heard that.
But didn't you, when you were doing the video, I think you could hear that as well. I think there were two separate sounds. It was the throw
from Madja's POV.
Let me play.
There's two sounds. One of the sounds is when he quick changes to the A1S, which you can't hear, right? Because you'll have to look at the exact timing. But the step, 100% from Madja's position, he heard. Right?
No, I could hear even like when I'm looking at the video now.
The quick change. It'd be the quick change. Are you sure?
But you would hear that even from the POV from Major's
No, you wouldn't. That's what I'm saying.
But that's my.
But in the demo, you would.
In the demo, there's the bug where you would hear the quick change, right?
Okay. So
when
it's
he
like
drops the gun, when he drops the gun to pick up the A1S, Madja would not have heard that. The other sound that you hear is the quick change, which is a demo bug. I'm pretty sure.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure.
Sure, it sounded like there was the gun throw, but I just connected those two dots because I didn't see the other side immediately, So I guess we might be right.
And then, so Wonderful's coming to clear through upper tunnels, and as he's taking the step, right? So he's trying to make sure that it's not a shift around the corner. He's making sure that he's taking his finger off the shift key so he can step like a bit more, but not to swing, right? He was trying to do a step where he wouldn't make noise, but he ended up making noise. Madja hears him. Wonderful keeps walking. Madja sits, waits, even though the time's getting low, and gets the kill. Now, there's a couple of things with this that are, when I was casting, as I said, I didn't hear it because we're all talking and everything like that. But I also didn't react like that was a crazy clutch, right? Or what an amazing moment, because, and this is the crazy part, guys, just for everybody playing at home, the crowd was pretty fucking obnoxious, if I'm going to be honest. Like, some people like that. I don't particularly like that. That's not my thing. And people will be like, oh, why don't you like people having fun? It's not that I don't like people having fun. It's that I don't like people yelling out things that could have impact on the game. And whether or not that it could be heard from the players, I don't know. I have no idea. I can't tell you one way or another. The only people who could tell you would be the players themselves, or if the admins released like the full comms and we could hear what the mics were picking up. And even then, what type of residual sound is leaking through, right?
But it's also like you have the fans so close that maybe even some gesturing can give things away, you know, things like that are small but maybe not be noticed on the stream, but the players obviously see because the fans are so close. I mean, we had the same problem in fall final, right? Like the 2-3 years ago or something,
where they were close
there was a lot
to the front of the stage.
Yeah, exactly. And there were like people like literally, I don't know, maybe 5 meters in front of the teams, you know, who were like gesturing things and all that stuff. And obviously that was also very obnoxious at the time. So like that sort of, I understand what Major was coming from when he was posting the reply, you know, where that sort of interaction maybe should be forbidden, you know, where you have people way too close with that information, you know.
Well, the problem is with this venue, so this is another thing that we can cover at some time. There's not really a whole lot of other room to place them. Now, that's a whole separate problem. But the point that I'm trying to get to here is that fans who are deliberately trying to, like when a play's happening and people are like, whoa, or like, oh, he's sticking the diffuse, right? They're not yelling, he's sticking the diffuse. Everyone's like, oh, like, and you get that fever pitch, right? It builds because everybody's having like a reaction. But when people are clearly saying things, and I don't speak Turkish, so I don't know what type of words they were saying, but they were definitely yelling things that were words. When people are yelling words, which could be translated into actual, like behind you, or he's coming from this position, that right there, that is so fucked. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's not you enjoying what's going on. That's you being a fucking muppet. Like, what are we doing when that's happening? That people who go and watch live Counter-Strike and do that, what is going through your brain? Like, I would love to sit them down in a chair and have that conversation. Be like, what compelled you to think that that's a good idea? Like, what is it that you want your team of people who don't even fucking know you to win that badly because you're from the same country? What is the world if that is the case?
Well, I think you just don't have the passion, bro.
I don't have the passion.
You don't have the passion.
I don't have the passion.
I think it's kind of obvious, but it's also just not ideal. I think the funny part is that this is Major and Blade that honestly they're not even in a beef, but like everyone around like making comments makes it sound like they're like arguing when they're both pretty respectful. I think Major's like extremely respectful. Blade can be kind of spicy sometimes, but I think both of them, they weren't like calling the other team out for doing something. It's mostly about just the tournament setup itself, that they're like, this is not the best. And honestly, also props to Blade for taking a whole day and not like, he didn't do this after the tournament. He's like, we'll play the tournament, enjoy, blah, blah, and then say it tomorrow, just as a general feedback to try to avoid these kind of situations, which I think is pretty good. And Major kind of agrees, like, we need to do something, we need to be better, you know, than that.
But isn't it, this is the bit I'm having a hard time with, and I'm going to have a hard time with this probably until the day I die. Again, what is going through the fans' mind to think that it is okay to yell information to the teams, whether they can hear you or not? Let's just assume, just for the sake of this argument, they can't hear.
We have no answer, clearly.
Why? What going through peanut brain to think yell info good idea? What?
But it is just like that. It is just like the 1% chance that they hear and win the round because you want them to win.
But isn't that the problem?
That is it.
Yeah.
So they are the problem, right?
Who else would be the problem?
I mean,
this is what I'm saying.
But you can also speak to this, right? I mean, Blade was talking about them getting warnings. I didn't see anything about this from anywhere else. So I'm curious if you know something about that. If ESL were trying to do something to combat this live on the ground, because I mean, ultimately it is the tournament organizer who should enforce, you know, fair play, and who should enforce to make sure that should have the ways to enforce integrity of the tournament, right? And this is something that's clearly putting it in question. And so, like, they should be the ones who are kicking fans out for this behavior, because like you cannot get away with that. I mean, you're literally breaking the integrity of the match.
Well, this is what I know. I know when they won the semi-final, some people jumped up on the stage, which to me, I was immediately like, well, do we all not remember the PGL thing? right? Like that was not that long ago, and it was to celebrate the victory. But regardless, isn't this is bad, right? So then the next day, I know that myself and some of the other members on the broadcast said to player management, and we also brought it up to our manager, and we said, hey, like, are they doing anything extra today regarding these fans? Because if they do win and they jump up on stage again, this is not cool. Like, EF don't even know who these people are. Like, what are we fucking talking about here? Like, this is not okay.
I mean, to be honest, like, there is really no excuse from a TO perspective, ESL in this case. There's not that many people that they can't get into control and be like, these 5 guys went to the stage. They can't be here tomorrow. Like, I don't know what they did. Did they do anything about this? I kind of picked up just bits that there was someone on stage. Like yesterday, I heard something about it. But I didn't see it live. But you shouldn't allow them to come back. Like, that's kind of like a basic minimum level expectation of, if you break some rules, you should not be invited to do it again.
I'll be honest, I flagged it at the start of the day, and I was told that they had been spoken to, and that's where I left it. It's like, unless I go and actually be security, right? Like, otherwise, what are we talking about here?
I'm just curious about during the actual match, you know, if they were given warnings or what happened. Like,
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know. We're not going out to like tournament management and talking to those people and doing that kind of stuff. Like, that's that. Like,
okay.
And to be fair, when I saw the ancient situation happen, and I was like, serves you fucking idiots right. I was like, whatever you're trying to do here, you've just seen the opposite effect of you making all of this noise. Like, here you go. You want a reason not to be yelling shit? JL winning the clutch against you. And that's why Blade's standing up and giving you the thumbs up. He's going, thanks, guys. Thanks for letting us know that he was defusing the bomb, because you're cheering in that fashion. It's like, when those scenarios are happening, most of the time from our casting perspective, we're also not trying to put too much fucking sauce on the hot dog to not give away the situation, even with the raise of the speakers. Like, we're cognizant of these things happening. So it's like, when this stuff's going down, it's like, man, it's just etiquette. And there's clearly a lack of it. Like, I think there's just a lack of etiquette.
I mean, I was talking about this before. I mean, that Blasted was the issue of, like, nobody ever spoke to them. You know, nobody ever told them until I don't know how many days into the tournament that this is not okay. You know, like, it took them forever to address it, and a lot of the time it really does take just that. Like, you just have to put a disclaimer there. Like, of course, like, it's also up to the people, like, having some, like, being reasonable and not doing this on their own. But, like, if that doesn't happen, then you have to step in as the TO and say, okay, this is a behavior that we'll not tolerate. You can cheer, you can react, but you cannot give away, you cannot shout words, you cannot shout information about the other team, or you know, try to give them an advantage in that way. And so I'm just curious if that happened.
That's the thing. I don't know. I won't make an assumption on it. I would imagine because they were spoken to regarding the behavior from the day before, that there must have been something said. I don't know. I can't comment on that and be accurate. It would all just be conjecture. So I can't really speak to that, unfortunately. But I just like seeing all of the rigmarole around it today, and it's like, the level of hate that people want to throw at each other is just so insane. It's like, can we just acknowledge, right? We're talking about a group of people that were there, right? We're not talking about a country as a whole, which is how people love to do this shit. We're literally talking about a group.
The whole of Turkey was there.
Right, what are we doing? Lobby. And then there's also the thing that extrapolates to, well, no, because they were doing this, these guys must have heard this. It's like, well, no, they could have been doing this, which is bad, but does not mean that it had an effect on this. Right? Like, they don't have to, like, they can both exist at the same time. It's just so wild to me, right? Like, and that Madja, the tweet that I made regarding the Madja thing was to show exactly that. Like, they could have been yelling something, but the game information gave Madja all he needed to be able to win that clutch. The information was there. He knew where Wonderful was coming from because the step was made, and he knew which position, and he sat and he waited and he killed him, right? Like, I just don't get, like, the thing is, then if we want to extend the conversation and start talking about this same thing that we have every couple of years, and I guess we have to keep having it every couple of years, why don't we put them in booths? Why don't we just go put them in hotel rooms, right? And you guys can all just watch from home, wherever. We'll just play. Actually, I have a better idea. Why don't we just play online Counter-Strike?
Yeah, I don't think that's the line. There's different.
I'm being ridiculous, right? But
yeah,
you know,
I shot a quick question to somebody who should know, and I was told that some people were kicked out. So I'm.
That's great news.
Yeah,
that's good.
That's fantastic news.
Maybe
I don't have this. Obviously, don't have this corroborated that I have it only from one person. But I mean, it's a credible place.
Okay.
Incredible place, even Malta.
Now,
that is.
Look, before we let's jump off there. Before we get talking about the matches and stuff themselves, this is another thing that irks me because there's people who like to talk about this event, you know, just being the talent, just to like not do any work and just to fuck around and everything like that. And this is their own like personal podcast, and that's how they treat it. Guys, let's just do a quick history dive for some of you fucking morons. Pro League is like the flagship event for the partnership teams, so the Louvre agreement teams and ESL, right? That's where we have all this revenue share and everything like this. So like any decision on where said event is going to be held, the Louvre agreement teams have a say in that, because what they're looking for is to try and get money from a government or whatever, right? To be able to then pay like for rev share or all this other stuff. So when they're pitching to have these events, they're putting it through the Louvre agreement teams. And I don't think that'll be happening anymore. But the Louvre agreement teams, which is some of your favorite organizations in the world for most of you, are having a say in where these events go. So they made it.
I'm not so sure if that's not going to be possible. I mean, some of these teams are still.
I thought you were going to say I was wrong. I was like, how am I wrong, Shrek? I was ready to fucking throw fists, bro.
No, not in the way that this has been happening. I mean, of course, they had a lot of power over what was happening to the product. The Louvre agreement teams. I'm just saying, even moving forward, I think some of the organizations will still have, let's say, at least heavy influence on what happens with certain tournaments, because, of course, you know, ESL or any tournament organizer will be incentivized to make these teams happy so that they go to their tournaments, because now it's all about it's even more about, you know, making them happy, because then now they have a choice. It's not just about like they get to have an influence, you know.
Yeah.
So now they can't be forced to go to the event, but they have to be incentivized. So even further motivation for TOs to make certain teams, especially the ones very high at the top, happy.
Okay, so well, regardless, this still plays into my point, right? And we ended up in Malta, right? We ended up in Malta. Now, what are the shortcomings of Malta? The location, that too, just as simple, but. The location, right? The location is a massive one. Why is it a shortcoming? Well, it's a small island with the population of 500,000 people. And I would say of those 500,000 people, not many of them are probably into video games or Counter-Strike. And then to get to this...
It's actually so funny that the videos, the little bits of Stana going around Malta and trying to like find 3 people for a segment that know something about video games. And like he can't. So they just like put a bunch of clips of him asking people, "Oh, do you know about video games?" No, and they leave. So vibes.
He gave it a go, you know. But at least people get to see a little bit of Malta. So this event was put in Malta. Now I don't know if people remember the season that we did from like Cologne, which was where we were at a different part of the island as opposed to the part of the island we find ourselves at for the last couple of seasons. But it was nothing. Like the casting was done from there, but the production I think was done from Katowice. So like the casting was sent from like Malta to Katowice, and the desk was in Katowice, and it was all kind of mixed there.
That's the night shift era when there was like.
I think that could have been.
Yeah. Night shift, and you guys were doing the morning, and it was like Blay, Paula, and Maui, I think, doing desks.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And then Janko, Kassad, and Stana. Yeah, that was an era.
Okay, so we had that, and then like from there, it was just lifeless and soulless and boring because there was no real way to do anything with the players because the desk was in Katowice and the casting was in Malta, and we weren't able to do anything. So then, as we transition forward into the next seasons, well, we were like, okay, so this is a long format. We don't keep strong retention for hardcore fans who are there, and you watch every single game. You are a minority, right? Like not everybody is going to do that. Not everybody's going to watch every match over a 5-week portion. That's not what's going to happen whatsoever. So to be able to deliver something which isn't going to be grating, we came up with a format of how we can try and, you know, either gamify things or make things more relaxed or make things entertaining in different ways so that the viewer would be able to enjoy themselves over that period of time, right? Like that isn't just going to be hardcore Counter-Strike in your face every day of the week. And some people would probably like that, but most people wouldn't. So we kind of had to make up for the shortcoming of long bad format, right? Not only long format, but long bad format, location, which means no good crowd. So we came up with a different version of entertainment that could offer a bit more personality, bringing players into skits and different ways to do interviews and try and get more out of them, and talk about things that are topical with Counter-Strike at the time, as opposed to just the matches that are going on. And normally they don't mean anything because it's triple fucking elimination.
It felt like you guys even did more. I mean, I was on vacation for a lot of the playoffs, but not before for the groups. And it seemed like I saw way more skits than before even. How did that happen?
So I don't know exactly, like, in terms of what we delivered, if it was more. I think maybe like content wise probably, but in terms of like the high production skits or things like that, a lot of that is like conversations that we're having in the lead up, and then there's stuff that just kind of happens when we're there. And this time round we were less organized than we were in the previous season, obviously because of some of the things that were happening, but we also had different staff on site and things like that from a media services standpoint. So but I guess it's one of these things where everybody also understood what we were going to be doing, so it meant that there was less of a struggle in the beginning to get going. It's like, oh, we understand what we're doing, everyone knows what they need to be doing, like, let's just fucking get to it. So it seemed to work well from that perspective. And once we were like our 4th season deep of doing this, I guess that'd be our 4th. Is that our 3rd? I think it's our 4th season deep of doing that. Everybody had an understanding of what was required. So I think that probably helped facilitate a little bit more of that. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out, guys. Like, from our perspective as the people on the show, we would much prefer to be in a venue with thousands of people and have that environment than doing what we have to do. I can't even put into words how much extra work over the course of those 3 weeks it is for us to do that level of a show than it is for us to just do some normal show where we literally just go and talk about the game. Like, you
only work for small portions of the day rather than the entire thing, right?
So like this format that we're doing right now, you'll probably never see it again. You probably won't get it again. That'll probably be it, because there's 2 things that are an issue with it. One is obviously next time round we won't have partner agreement teams, so we probably don't get the same access with teams. And the other is it's a lot of work for us to do, and ESL don't pay us any more money. Like, if anything, most of us are getting paid less money at the moment than we were a year ago. So yeah, it's probably it, unless there's some form of a change that can be had between this and next season. But we don't even know what the format's going to be next season. We don't even know what country we're going to be in.
At least it seems it's going to be just as long, because the time slot is still reserved
3 weeks,
for the 3-ish weeks.
Well,
okay, I've done enough ranting now.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Rest
everybody.
Pepperoni. It was good. I wrote on Twitter, I think it was the best season so far. I think it kind of came together in a good product. I think previous seasons were kind of figuring shit out and going too far in some ways and not enough in other ways. And I think this one was enjoyable to watch. Like, it was funny, but it wasn't like overwhelming and overshadowing. And especially the last few games were pretty seriously casted, I would say, which was good vibes. I enjoyed seeing you guys try and fail to get stuff out of players, such as, like, there was this Magic's Xontix a little bit. I think it was a Stunna was prepared some questions for them.
Yeah.
I forget how you call it, but when you ask like what happened in the game or
Were
something.
you paying attention?
Yeah, it was horrible. It was actually worse. And it's one of these things where it's like, oh, they were just asking us the same questions. Interviews are boring. You ask them different questions, it's even worse. So it was amazing to watch.
We're making some like executive decisions where we get choice from now on probably not to do anything with like Spirit or Virtus Pro anymore, to be completely honest. I think Donk and Shiro are good. We were told explicitly that we can't talk to Jame or Electronic. So like the VP, I think VP
That's
even
lovely, yeah.
Well, even during Bet Boom, I think the Bet Boom organizers told the talent at Bet Boom that they weren't allowed to talk to Jame and Electronic, right? Or like about leadership things, or weren't even allowed to talk about it on air. So like I think like now that there's no more partnership stuff, and even though those teams weren't partnership teams, in my mind, if teams don't want to play along and like don't want it, then fuck yeah.
Nothing
like,
you can do, yeah.
Exactly. Like we won't bother. We won't try and like write you into skits and do things for you like that can help get your person. If you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. So that's fine. Like you just go and play your game, and that's all good. And I understand it's difficult to express yourself in your language that is not native, right? Like they're not speaking Russian, they're speaking English, right? But we're on an English broadcast. So I think it's just better for everybody if we don't talk to them. It's probably the best thing we can do, like, because otherwise it's just shit.
But these things when they're like, oh, you can't talk to this guy or you can't talk to this guy, is it's kind of bullshit. No, it's then the same people, if you go and say this publicly, will get mad.
I don't give a fuck, mate.
And it's just hilarious, I think.
Mate, there's certain teams, and these are like big teams, and these are teams with players who are international teams, so they all speak English. And we're getting them on the couch, and we're trying to do fun things with them that are like either Counter-Strike related and things that the players are into. And their management is in the ear of our fucking producer, who's then in our ear telling us to wrap shit up, as their players are the ones extending conversations. Like, and we're like, oh, I guess we'll just wrap this conversation up now because some dickhead manager wants his players to they just won a game and they're just talking to us sort of cat. Like, it's not like a serious interview. We're not sitting there we're just having a good time, just chatting about stuff. And these managers of some of these teams, man, I can't quite believe it. It's like, and these are teams who are part of the Louvre agreement. And so I'm like, bro, manager, what are you doing? Your org probably wants as much exposure on your team's jersey as humanly possible, and you're taking them off of the camera. It's like, what are we doing?
It's gotten a bit crazy, and that's recently it's felt like so much protectiveness for what seems like no reason, just because you're worried they might say something remotely kind of controversial. It's I don't know. I've hated it too, and obviously from my perspective as somebody who wants to talk to these people and who wants us to talk to these people, it's been annoying.
Should we talk about the Counter-Strike?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Talk about the only thing
I can only talk about the best of 5, which is the only thing I watched because I literally came back on Saturday.
Let's talk about the best of 5. I'll say as the best of 5 hater on this panel, I watched this at home. Amazing experience. This was for me better than the Cologne Grand Final, which I watched in the arena, and I'm pretty sure that it's 80% of that is just because I was at home, and not in an arena. It's so much better. Like during this best of 5 final, I watched practically all of it, but during the final, I had dinner, I cleaned the kitchen, I vacuumed, I took a shower, and I did like 20 minutes on a bike while during this grand final. And I missed like a few minutes here and there, but I watched all of it. So good. What a good combination of watching Counter-Strike and actually being able to do stuff and like chilling on the couch, laying around, looking at some reels in bed, all of the things. You can do so many things.
So while you're distracted, a best of 5 final is good, is what you're saying, Prof.
No, but you can fill in the 10,
breaks,
15-minute gaps, and you don't have to be like fucking uncomfortable. Try to find a seat. Oh, you find a seat. There was a crane in front of you. Oh, now you're thirsty. Now you need to go and get the fucking water and lose 15 minutes of the game and shit like this. It's like,
Spoken like a true home officer, man. It's
so good. I love it. But honestly, I enjoyed this. I watched the whole thing. I was glued to the screen throughout the best of 5, and it started great. I think this is like the best that we could have gotten. No one could expect this to be so fucking tight. Like from the get-go, all of the.
It was exciting from the veto.
Yes, everything was just so fucking good.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell even from the way that Alexi was getting tilted during like at 6-2 in Anubis, that they were like this was going to go the distance just because they're not like they're feeling the pressure. They know that they're the ones who should win this. And all that, So, I mean, you could kind of predict it like a couple of maps in that it was not just going to be a rollover. I mean, I also enjoyed it a lot. I mean, there was just one map that basically wasn't very competitive. It's kind of funny that Navi actually lost more rounds than they won because
like Navi
it's
Navi.
It's same as in I mean, across the whole major. I mean, across the whole EPL, I'm sure they didn't, but still, it was great final. I think, I mean, it could have realistically, like Dust2 should have gone the other way if they didn't lose the 5v3 on B, you know, where they were kind of just getting peaked at one point. I think if EF win that, they just win the series. They win the title. That situation really changed everything, because that half just turned from probably a 1/2 for EF to a 7-5 for Navi or something, right, in the end. So like realistically, with how close it ended up being, it could have gone either way, and that was cool.
But the thing is, like, sure, down the stretch, like Dust 2 was tighter as well. But you look at Anubis, they probably should have lost Anubis if it wasn't for Emma just going absolutely fucking nuts. Like, he popped off in a massive way.
The 1v4 was also like saving their
bro. What is it,
completely.
like 11 seconds when he gets the first kill left on the timer or something?
It wasn't
something like that, yeah.
And they also had to win a 4v2.
It's one of those moments where, like, if Rucadia just doesn't swing here for no reason, they win the round.
Yeah. But literally. Also, the smoke goes down to Temple, and then XANTARES is low. He just sits behind it. Then WATO joins up with him, and they both just wait out the smoke. Like, I'm not saying I'm just saying, like, it was the perfect storm in that situation with the smoke, because XANTARES isn't now going to pivot around, right? He is going to wait. You also don't want him to walk through, which is crazy play, but walk through the Temple smoke or do something. Then there was like the round where he had the AWP. Emma had the AWP and got like a multi-kill with that. He wonderful saved it. But the thing is, EF were very well prepared across the series. I liked the gambit that they took by removing Mirage and having Ancient come in. That's what caused like the start of the series to be a little bit all over the place, right? We started on Nuke, which there was no way. Navi said they weren't ready for the veto to go in that fashion, so it probably made them doubt what their first choice should be. And I think it was Yanko's logic, but it makes sense. Like, if Nuke was going to be their second pick, they were just like, well, we'll just fucking first pick it now. When maybe Ancient, if you really wanted to punish, would have been the best, but you're going into the unknown. You don't know what they prepped. It's obviously something that they're left in here, so you want to make sure and see what form your player's in. And even Ancient was fucking close. Like, for a map that is essentially their permaban, I know they played it at Sky Esports, but that's the map they ban in the majority of their series. For it to be that close, and some of the shortcomings just being like they weren't throwing the heaven molly when on their T side, so Bits getting free fucking space to push down B lane. Like little details.
There were still some moments, you know, where they were like just solo guys swings out middle, because it seemed like there was some like miscommunication or maybe like just not enough of a playbook, so somebody was trying to go for individual plays when they maybe shouldn't have. You know, that kind of threw the map away. So you could tell that there's some inexperience there, but still like very, very competitive considering that.
I mean, that Ancient is like, you see teams that play Ancient all the time, and it doesn't look any better than that, like on the T side. So it's like, it was pretty good, even though it was pretty simple. Like, I don't know who was casting. I think it was Moses, like pointing out that they were just doing A and B hits.
Lots of A stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
But there was a 1v2 that Madja was in where he had the incendiary that he'd picked up and he missed through it. And it landed on like the tree position instead of the bomb. And I don't think they had a smoke. So he could have that's a round that they could have won. So another game that went 13-11, and there was just so many opportunities.
It was actually a funny situation because you could see Major was like, I fucked it up. You know, it was just, it was nice. And that whole dynamic, by the way, obviously this happens a lot when you have an underdog taking on a big favorite, you know, where the underdog's obviously going to be the one kind of, you know, joking, like looking much more relaxed during the game, and the favorite's going to be more the one under the pressure, especially with certain teams. And we know maybe Navi or Alexi is probably feeling a lot of that. Especially considering his best of 5 record and all of that, and that being a very publicized thing. So, I mean, I just enjoyed that part of it, you know, where, you know, you saw Eternal Fire fuck up like in these situations and they kind of brushed it up very quickly. But, you know, Navi getting under pressure when they're leading big and, you know, not having any problems, they're having their own individual players bail them out. Like, of course you can, like, it almost went too far for me, especially on that Anubis situation where I'm like, Jesus, like you should be kind of enjoying that your players are bailing you out of shit situations rather than making a big deal out of it. I understand you're trying to get ahead of like those issues cropping up more in these future rounds, but you're just tilting at your team not knowing what they're doing at 6-2. You know, I'm like, does that really help in that situation? I mean, I feel like maybe it wouldn't have come so close if that didn't happen, you know.
Well, I think obviously the pressure was there. You could hear it on Nuke with the comms as well. Like at one point we had like a listen, or it was in the breaks, which I think is a big improvement from ESL having more of those team con things where they could, because that's something the Blast were doing really well for a long time now. ESL are doing these a bit more compilation like things in breaks and stuff. So I think that's important for the viewer. But I digress. Where JL was saying like, wake up now, like, and he was like, please, like, no, we got to communicate more and everything. Even on Nuke, like there was a slow start. So I think that for Navi being such a big favorite in that game, right? Because realistically, as I touched on before, that was Vitality's side of the bracket to run, right? That I know EF played well. I'm not going to, and we'll talk about them in a minute. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But as far as getting an easy side of the bracket goes, Vitality couldn't have dreamed of an easier side of the bracket. Like it's impossible. That was crazy the way that the draw worked out, but that was obviously impacted by the way that, say, Spirit and FaZe did within their groups by coming third as opposed to coming second, right? We could have had some different look things there. So the fact that EF get there and play really good CS, Navi still go in as the team who have been in what was going to be their 4th consecutive grand final. They've been looking in better form than since they had won the major, not only like with the team Counter-Strike and the fundamentals, but the individuals. And then they're in a position where they're under pressure like from the get-go. The veto probably raveled them, and then they're not getting off to the best of starts, and maybe things aren't like flowing as they should at 100%. And you can see them like they had to grind that game out, right? Navi had to grind that game out, not playing their 100% best CS, but they still got the win. So I think like that's impressive from that standpoint. I wouldn't even say it's worrying, because if you can win a trophy by not playing your A game, that says something in itself, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was when you think about it, there's a bit of this. I felt like a need to put Vitality as the best team in the world. Like people,
because they won Cologne,
yeah, people really wanted to put this on them. And realistically, even now with Navi's win, like they're probably the most consistent team this year overall. But if you're looking at like next tournament, there is no number one team that's going to win. There's no obvious favorite. There's no, for me, there is no need to even put things in this context, because it is kind of disingenuous to even try to paint things like this. It's like, Navi is the number one team. No, I mean, Vitality is not the number one team. They lose. And the next day it's like, oh no, Navi is actually the number one team. They were the number one team all along. It's like no, but Navi's consistency is super, super impressive. And it's a good achievement for them to get the win in these kinds of circumstances as well, because I don't want to say it's easy to win as an underdog, but it's a different kind of ball game, right? And it's different to win when you 3-0 people, and when you like come back and struggle and go in with like super tight games and have to manufacture some weird bullshit rounds, which thankfully they have an expert for, right? They have JL who literally does this rounds. I mean, every fucking tournament they win. He has insane rounds that make no sense. Not no sense. They make like 10% sense, but you should get one of these, 2 of these per year, but he gets like 3-4 per tournament. Yeah. And it's obviously a game changer for them.
Yeah, I think that kind of saved the whole MVP discussion as well, because I mean, obviously overall the final was not good for him, and it was kind of another bad best of 5 after the, I'm trying to remember which one that was, the Cologne run, right? Yeah. So it was kind of another kind of example for a guy we kind of saw as a big arena player, because of some of the arena games that he had in 2024. I mean, he's consistently been there, but for some reason these last couple of finals he wasn't. But that one great what was it, Ancients, that was obviously kind of big game changer in the whole series. And then he had the 1v3 there, and then he had this like big triple on Dust 2 as well, that just completely like turned the game in their favor to all the way at the end. That I think made not necessarily the decision, but I think it made us a little bit more calm, that we know that he's had the impact, again, to pull them over the line, even though the stats overall weren't good for the final, if you look at the whole 5 maps,
I think that every player from Navi throughout that series had their moments. And this is why, like, I don't know. I may have had the conversation with you guys, or I may have had it with Jason and Yanko. I don't remember exactly, but like ESL have this DHL MVP, right? And there's some real fundamental flaws with that award, and when it is decided upon, right? We'll get into that maybe another time. But my my thought that would make it, because everybody knows who has half a brain in Counter-Strike, that the MVP award that matters the most to the player is the HLTV MVP. That's the one that matters the most. That's not even a question, right? Like if ESL just sold this DHL MVP to DHL and they just sold it on the proviso that this is just the award for the grand final game, right? Then it would have some value. Like if you were the MVP of the grand final, which is the most important match overall, and it would mean that the award then, right? Like the award then would be like, oh yeah, okay, this guy was the final MVP, like the MVP of the final, and then there is an MVP of the tournament, and it would actually be okay then, like it would have a reason.
It's also much easier to decide, by the way. I mean, looking at the whole tournament, especially like one like EPL, like it's something we struggle with constantly. We're always kind of talking about how best to handle it. Is like the way that like tournament routes are completely different across teams. You know, like if you look at how NAVI got to the final and how EF got to the final, I mean, the disparity in maps played alone can be like crazy, you know, and so like the decision, it's not easy oftentimes, and this one was heading towards that. Again, like we went into the final thinking, yeah, like JL has this in the pocket, like it would take something pretty crazy to take it away from him. But like by map 5, we were like, well, if XANTARES is another huge map, you know, like it becomes a conversation for sure, you know. So like deciding it for just one series would be much easier and much more legitimate as well, you know, much more easy to see, I think. And it would just still carry a lot of weight. I mean, I agree with you. It's you're also not trying to compete with anything else. I mean, nobody really does this, you know, having just single like grand final MVPs or anything like that. So I think I actually like that idea.
Well, let's put a cap on
as somebody who's biased, by the way. I mean, obviously we have our own MVP and all that.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I think if the need is already being serviced, why have an overlapping thing? Why not find something else where you can?
I think you know what the problem is with that, because DHL gets exposure, or whoever is the sponsor gets exposure throughout the whole tournament, and it's not just the final, you know, where they get, you know, the DHL MVP update, and like they're talking about who the best players of the tournament have been so far, and so like the sponsor just gets more exposure if it's a topic across the whole tournament rather than during one match, right?
You just change the framing, right?
Deliverables.
So you can still. The deliverable could be exactly the same. You just change the framing as we're going through the group, as we're going through the matches within the playoffs. You say these are the players performing best so far, right? Then you just highlight players who have had strong performances.
Right.
So
I mean, you can have that like a different segment for the same sponsor, right?
Exactly. It's just an indicator of who's playing well. And then the thing is, if I was the sponsor, right, I would prefer an award that actually means something than one that most people are going to look at and go, like, because
I don't really need this.
Exactly. Like I would want something to have actual value. But that's the thing, because the people who are selling this shit, like this is with 95% of the inventory that gets sold from these fucking businesses. They're sold by people who don't know what they're selling. They're sold by people who don't understand Counter-Strike. Their job is in sales. It's not in Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the thing that I think is quite interesting with HLTV, not to glaze someone else who pays me, but the people who are doing the sales are actually people who are in the Counter-Strike universe.
True.
This is absolutely true. Yeah.
So it does make it a bit easier to sell inventory that's true to what. Anyway, we're getting businessy. Let's cap off Navi's run. They beat Linvision, NIP, then Eternal Fire. That was their final game of the group stage. Then they had to take on Spirit, which they absolutely mauled. But from that
sad game from Spirit, but also great from Navi, but also sad game from Spirit.
Yeah, Spirit are leaving a bit of a bad taste in the mouth, aren't they? But that point there is where the dominance ended. Up to that point, Navi hadn't lost a map. Then they played against G2. They won both the maps, Inferno and Ancient, pretty convincingly, 13-8, 13-6. But they lost Nuke, and that was a game that never felt like they were in control of or never really had a chance, even though the scoreline was 13-11 to G2. It just felt like Navi were always behind on that map. And then they played Eternal Fire in the best of 5, and that's where the same kind of feeling carried through. It wasn't that they were behind necessarily, but they had to kind of fight through those matches. So there was like a clear tone shift of the dominance of Navi, because it did look like it was going to be a real dominant end to the event from Navi, but that all stopped after the Spirit game. So that was their run. Let's go into... Here we go.
I think just to mention one thing, I think... we kind of touched on it, but EME is playing really good. and it's great to see. I think obviously we criticized him a lot, so we should go on the other side and be like, yeah, legit playing like a star player now, like, which kind of confirms what we were saying before, that what he was doing was not okay and not something that Navi can sustain. But yeah, he's showing more of where he used to be in Gamer Legion, or better than anything we saw in Navi, you know, when he joined Navi in the initial spurts, and definitely far away from that like bad major that they won, which was definitely his worst tournament, I think, in Navi in this like post-simple era, right? So I think, yeah, just wanted to give a shout out to him. I think the rest of the team, obviously, as you said, Bit played pretty well, Wonderful played pretty well, Alexi B did his thing. He had that one flash for JL that everyone's going to remember, and that's it. I do think
the whole
like
series, he had that one flash.
yeah, I mean, honestly, like his individual performance not that great. There's
doing
quite
good on Anubis T side, getting mid space with impact kills. But it wasn't like
but a
flashy
lot of
stuff.
but you also saw a lot of moments where he's just like, how does he not get that kill, man? How does he not get that? But
the Tech 9 kill.
Oh,
the,
that
like,
was
flash player.
That was horrible. And there was also like a 2v2 where Major on Inferno walks through the CT smoke, and Alexi B is literally watching him and loses a duel. And he's like shifting. He's not like Major knows he's gonna be there. He's literally in the middle of nowhere. He should win this 100%, but he doesn't. So there's a bunch of these like rough rounds to watch. But
I mean, also speaking to the individuals, I mean, JL getting a second MVP and the first one being the major. I don't know how many VPs he has. I think 3 more. I mean, he's getting into the conversation where he could be a top 5 player at the end of the year if he continues at this rate. I mean, it's pretty impressive considering the sort of competition he's up against, you know, in that category. I mean, you can think of a guy like Nico, you know, who's probably somewhere around there, you know, where JL can has a real say now, and that's going to be a cool conversation at the end of the year, because I don't think anybody could have expected, you know, when JL joined Navi, like, okay, people are kind of praising him for Apex, but he was never some massive star even in Apex.
Not this impactful.
Not nowhere near this impactful, you know. So to see that progress through over just, you know, what was basically a few months before he had that big major performance that gave them the major, you know, so many like deciding plays, and now he's like put this kind of garnered this reputation for being a big match player, even, you know, despite these last couple of series in the finals. I mean, it's crazy, because I don't think, like, I couldn't have seen this coming anywhere near, you know, because he's not even in the positions where he should be the main star of the team, you know, but at the moment he's proving that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think the thing that like JL's impact rounds in terms of turning games is massive, but I think that now that Emma can have big performances too, any given match, Bit could go off, Emma could go off, JL could go off. Like, Wonderful, I think, is still finding his groove, but he could be in the same conversation there.
I mean, it's crazy how the conversation turned, isn't it? Because we kind of went from they have no stars to now they have 3.5, let's say, you know, like depending on who turns up on what day. Like, they really have a lot of depth at the moment, and that's kind of like it all falls into the conversation of like the team has to work for everybody to be comfortable and to be able to put on their performances.
It kind of makes
but
sense.
I can't put my finger on one thing that they all just like they just started doing better, so that everybody is feeling more comfort. I don't know if it's just down to confidence, you know, that they just like over time figure out more how to play, and so everybody has a little bit more space or understands more where they can make their plays. You know, I
think it's that one. I think it's that latter point, because like, if you're learning the way that Blade wants you to approach the game, there's going to be a certain amount of moves that you need to understand, right? And then once everybody understands that, then there's more than one way to solve the puzzle, right? And then the freedom of being able to do that is where the players get to like play, right? Like they get to make those choices.
They don't have to think about the game plan as much, you know, or what they're supposed to do in any given situation. Like, it could be that for sure, but it's crazy how quickly that conversation turned, how they turned the conversation around, you know, like within like after the major, of course, everybody was like, yeah, it's kind of a fluke major. They're not going to win any more tournaments. And then 3 months later, they get into this form where they're in four consecutive grand finals, and they have all of their players performing more or less at the same time, you know, like it's impressive. It's really impressive.
Well, they get to play Blast in a couple of days' time, so we'll see if they can continue that form, or if they're starting to feel a bit of the lethargy, and we're only getting to the middle point of the season. But well, let's move over to talking about EF, because this is a team that has had a couple of these moments where it's like, oh, they're on the cusp. It feels like, they've had some good results. We like the Counter-Strike they're putting together, and then they dip and we lose them for a little while. And I wonder if we're just at another one of those, like if we've just, they're at the peak of the roller coaster again, and we're going to, well, that's the exciting part, but roller coaster, bad analogy. But if we're going to have Eternal Fire now staying around, and I think that I would like to hope that they could, because I think that they play a fun style of CS overall, with XANTARES and nawwk being in good form. Like the nawwk one, whatever he has done to go and find himself is great, because nawwk on Mouse, that we would all remember, was awesome. Like when he was on Mouse Sports with cadiaN and Chris J and those boys, it was a very exciting nawwk, and he was like a game-defining nawwk. But in Eternal Fire, I know when he was on Cloud9, like Henry would say, yeah, this guy he wasn't great at learning his nades and doing that kind of stuff. In Eternal Fire, it felt like he was more of a supportive AWPer. And then now he's getting to be the AWPer again that's finding impact, and not only just doing it with the AWP, but he had some really good rifling rounds as well. So him and XANTARES being the two who we always hoped they would be is huge news for the team. And then that gives, I think, a bit of room to Arcadia to be able to contribute, because he's still growing. He's still such a young player as far as how many years have we had him on the screens for now? Like 2?
I mean, 2, I think, because 2022 Katowice was his first pick. Or am I crazy? Or is it just a year and a half? No, 23 Katowice. So I guess less than 2 years.
Okay, so less time than I thought. But I think he can still grow into something great. Calyx doing his job as the anchor, and I like the calling and stuff. So
actually, I'm wrong. It's even after that. I'm looking where he switched to the main team, and it's like May last year, so it's less than a year and a half.
Pro League. Just before Pro League last year.
More or less.
And he kind of impressed right away. Like, I think the interesting factor is like there's a lot of obvious improvements from like the major Eternal Fire, not major the player, but major in Copenhagen. nawwk is one for sure. His level. I'm not one that believes a lot in in-game settings, but left-hand model was added. He's a left-hand player.
Okay, all right.
Maybe that's something that unlocked a little I don't know, breaking point in him or something. But he's playing much better and essentially being impactful. Like he was not anywhere near the nawwk that we know from like 2018, 2019 CS:GO. Like that was a takeover the game, kind of inconsistent, but his highs were like super high. And this tournament he showed it again. I think that game against Vitality, essentially the last 3 games, the quarter, the semi against MIBR, and the grand final, he had some like insane maps. So that's a huge difference. I think like Calyx had some better games as well, not in the grand final, unfortunately. I think that was also like a kind of a problem factor for EF to not win the grand final. But I think what's most impressive is they have this, like, I would say, like tactical cohesion. Like they're really good at executing these little small plays, like either reads or like anti-strats or little things that they have in their book, which I don't know, this is, maybe it's going to sound bad, but like usually Turkish teams were not like this. They were very much, let's just play off of our aim, not overcomplicate things. And they weren't like super drilled tactical teams. And it feels like they have a great amount of that in this lineup right now. Like they don't make mistakes on these defaults.
They are
like
very reserved. I mean, you can see that. They take very safe approaches. They win the duels when they need to, and it's like this looks like a very solid team from like a tactical foundation side, and that's impressive to me. I mean, it also shows in, and I don't know how much this is Major's influence or whose influence, but it could just be also down to his improvement, right? But if you look at XANTARES, I mean, the way that kind of the reputation that he had in big, a lot of mistakes, kind of very individual player, over peaking a lot, just like not really understanding like how to act in certain situations, like decision making wasn't maybe the best, just the skill was kind of getting him over the line all the time, and now you see that next level of that now, where you can see him where he's taking much more reserved approaches in situations where he's not supposed to die. He's like much more of a rounded player, and that's, what is he now? Is he 29? Is he more even? 29 he is now. Yeah, he is 29.
Jesus.
And like he's on course to making his first top 20. I mean, that'll be also kind of, maybe not on course, but he could be somewhere in that discussion if he has a couple of these performances, you know, and they're not going to place too much until the end of the year. I think they're only in Rio and the major, but like if he has a couple of decent tournaments at those two, like yeah, at 29 making his first top 20, that would be pretty crazy. And like it is just something to do with this team specifically that seems to have gotten him to that next level. I mean, he's always been very skilled, very clearly very talented. He just reminds me of Oscar in that way, kind of from a very remote like country that never really had any other players, and just like kind of being timeless even well deep into his years. And like now he's hitting his peak, which is really impressive.
Yeah, I think that I didn't realize that he was that old, right? Like,
Same.
I mean, he's been around forever. I mean, from the beginning of CS:GO, he's been like even like end of 1.6. I'm pretty sure he still had some appearances. So
that's wild. Yeah. Well, what's the average age of the team then? It's got to be getting on
26.9.
Okay,
almost 27.
So I mean, Lucaozy is bringing it down a lot.
I mean, Woxic is also, he's 26. What is Calyx? 26. Yeah, it's like
Major's in his
Major's
30s.
33. Yeah. So that's what.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that I enjoyed watching them play. I think their run, like this is the problem with how the bracket worked out. They can only play who's in front of them, right? So they opened up against FlyQuest and Sangal, and the Sangal one had a bit of hype around it, obviously because of XFloud and what's his name? Jota, who used to be in Eternal Fire Academy. So it was a bit like like a Turkish derby in a way.
Also, kind of fun fact, from what I know, he is on loan from Eternal Fire.
Oh, that's not a fun fact at all, Prof.
Yeah,
the opposite of a fun fact.
But from a fun fact from Eternal Fire future perspective, from the perspective of this game and this not being maybe completely public, that's not a fun fact, but this is
not a fun fact.
This is what I have heard. Okay,
all right, fair enough. Well, hey, anyway, I was just we might have to sink our teeth into that at some point. Is now the time? Probably not. I'd want some more information. We have a lot more to
sink our teeth into, man.
We need to actually hurry up.
Yeah, my bad. I was ranting for too long at the start. Then they played NAVI. That was their last game in the groups, right? And they had that Anubis game that went into double overtime or triple overtime or something like that. Then they came out, they played the Mongols, and that was a series that went 3 maps. And I think there's a bit of history between the Mongols and Eternal Fire, if I remember rightly.
There's a little cold pop-off from...
Faber, right? Yeah. I don't know. What was that about? I didn't get the
something
reference.
about, I guess in Cologne they played, I think, and then Mongols won, and someone from Mongols said something like, "Oh, so cold," or like, you know, they're like ice cold.
Okay.
And then Faber made fun of them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Where was I going with this? Oh, and then their biggest win was the Vitality win, right? So they then had to beat MIBR within the semis, which again, nature of the bracket, and we'll talk a bit about MIBR, and then the NAVI rematch from the group stage in the grand final. But the win over Vitality, that was a really exciting series as well. The Inferno was super back and forth. There were huge clutches in there from Vitality to keep them in it. Like Zywoo had a massive clutch, Spinks had a massive clutch, and it was a really, really fun game with lots of gambling towards sides. And just to bring on some of the things you guys were talking about, like strat-wise, they seemed like they were very quick to like rotate and pack roll, like a lot of 4-1 stuff or even 5-man stuff where Magic would get them just immediately going and then getting ready to go. And then if they got blocked, they'd drop back and go again. So it seemed pretty cohesive and pretty fluid. And it would be fun if we could have like another team that has a bit of personality to them. There's a bit of personality with this team and players, and obviously a huge fan base, which I'm getting a lot of them sending me messages because I put out a video showing that Magic could hear the step, but because they don't understand what I tweeted, they think I'm saying he couldn't hear the step. So I'm just having to block you so many Turkish people today.
Like I got caught by the video, so I knew what was going to be the point because I could see that you just wanted to prove a point. But you started it out as kind of a shit talk towards Eternal Fire, so I was like, yeah, okay, I understand how this is going to play out.
I'm trying to present things that I like. So what is being presented in the video it's a fact.
Yeah,
can't argue with what you see, but you also must have a very hard time arguing with the idea that yelling out positions, right, isn't a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, of course.
So I was just presenting my opinion on that without saying one way or another if I thought people were doing that. I just said fans yelling out positions and attempting to assist their team while the match is live is utter dog shit. That is a statement. It's pretty hard to fuck
Look,
with,
you don't
I
have
would
to.
say.
You don't have to argue this case here. I think we
and
understand.
then I went on to say that I didn't hear it while casting because it was impossible to hear while casting when Alex and Jason and me are talking and reacting and it's flicking around all the POVs. But if you go back and just watch it from their POVs and it's dead silent and you only have the game, which is pretty much what the players have.
Yeah, I mean, those headsets, like people should know, like those headsets that they're using now, the A zone ones. I don't want to. We are not sponsored or anything like that, but they're pretty damn good at blocking out everything. Like they're pretty solid at that.
Yeah, and I also get a lot of the sentiment of it's the tournament organizers' fault. I think it's people just being stupid is the main fault. Do I agree that the tournament organizers should do something? Yes, but Striker said before that he asked somebody, and some people were kicked out. How about people just don't be fucking unsportsmanlike? That's it. It's really easy.
Yeah.
There we go. All solved.
So just don't be a fucking dickhead. Really simple.
We need I think we should do ads and then continue quickly do like a little MIBR and maybe a little G2 or Spirit, I don't know, and then talk about Astralis.
Let's do it. Run the ads, Lucas. We'll be right back.
Quickly. Clear. Shoot it. The world is changing, but one thing remains the same. Victories with 1xBet.
SkinPlace launching an event with a total prize pool of $10,000 in honor of our first anniversary. Just sell skins, claim daily bonuses, complete missions, visit the shop, and participate in the main giveaway with popular skins and a powerful PC. Follow our social media to not miss.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph, and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at HLTV.org/shop.
We're back. Thanks for sticking with us through the ads. We'll quickly cap off some of these topics because I've waffled for too long. So let's just quickly go with MIBR. There was the Lucaozy situation that happened during the run for them during EPL. The news came out about him potentially joining the team, but we don't know in place of the MIBR's run. Do we think that the fact that maybe they were changing roster, they had that dead team smell and that's why they played better? Any quick thoughts on this?
100%. That's always how it works, unfortunately. Not always. Sometimes it works like that. But they're not a horrible team. They're far from it. I think we saw once again, Insani is a giga talent. I think the combination of him and Lucaozy is going to be interesting because they're both pretty aggressive players. I hope they can figure that out. But with that, they're pretty legit. Like this little drop in-game leader thing kind of working out. Safe is okay. We know he's like an okay opper.
He had a crazy game on Anubis versus who was it versus? He had felt like he was chasing down the record of Donk at one point. He had
that was like 22 or something.
M80. He was 18 for 2 in the first half or something.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane.
They had great wins. They beat Spirit in the group stage. I think the funny comment was I don't know who was it. I think he said it as well after they beat M80. It was like, we're not in the semifinal, but the win against Spirit meant more than this one, to get to the semifinal. It's like that's pretty
understandable.
Actually makes sense. Like Spirit overall this year didn't lose a lot of games. You know, that's a list of like 10 teams, maybe not even that have beat Spirit in this whole year. So that's a pretty big notch on the belt. Maybe that list is going to expand a bit towards the tail end of the year. That's how it feels, at least. But pretty solid run, and nice to see them performing, honestly.
Yeah, I like Drop as an in-game leader. I think he's matured a bit, obviously, since his time in Furia, which makes sense because he's getting older. I like the way he handles himself. I like that he was cocky as well in the interview. He was like, M80 are the weakest team in the playoffs. I was like, damn, bro, like, let's fucking go. Like, he said some stuff that gives a personality to the kid. So I'd like to see more when he seems like a nice enough guy. So, yeah, all right. Striking was saying about MIBR?
As I said, I mean, I only watched from the playoffs. I only watched the final because that's when I got back from vacation and I didn't even have any time. So
no,
we'll let you off.
We'll see what happens with the team and when they pop up next on the radar. I think
I did see the interview with Drop where he was like, "You know more than me, apparently." You know, it was just kind of funny where they got caught off guard by it, apparently, at least.
Yeah, well, I think with like Knack and Bit as the coaching stuff, they should have a pretty good idea of what they want to do over there. Okay, do we want to do Skinionaire first, or do we want to talk about some of their favorite teams who underperform?
Let's do Skinionaire quickly. This is for Striker. I know he said he didn't watch.
I got into the panel. Maybe I shouldn't be the one because I saw the answers. Like I saw the questions answers because I was in the panel.
Oh dear!
So I shouldn't do that. Well, I thought it was for Chad. I wasn't even. I didn't even know what I was looking at.
Then Chad could do it.
That's fine. I'll do it. Is it a new looking thing, Lucas? No audio. Yeah, ignore that part. All right. So, okay. Can I begin? I'm just waiting. All right, everybody. If you've just joined us for the first time ever, welcome. This is three idiots talking about a video game. That's what we like to call this segment. But no, this is Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire, brought to you by Skin Place. Again, one of the sponsors of the show. If you would like to head on over to Skin Place to sell some skins, you can. Anyway, there's going to be 5 questions. They're multiple choice. Each question that I get correct or incorrect, no, definitely just correct, we'll move the slider up. But let's see if I can get all 5 right. Let's give this one a go, shall we? All right. Question number 1 on my screen, Lucas. It says, wait, okay. Whoa, it's red. It looks like I'm getting flashbanged. Question number 1: Who played more maps at EPL? Who played more maps at EPL? Winners, Navi.
Winners, Navi, or
13-6 Furia. I see. Okay. It's only 2 options. It's not.
Yeah,
3
this is
options.
new technology. We have different options for options, different numbers of options.
Where did Furia come in? They played the opening game, and they lost in the playoff, and they lost to Spirit because then Spirit then went on to play Imperial. But if they came last in their group, which they did, that means that they had to play 6 series. So they had to play 7 series in total.
Bro, that was his format.
So we're talking, let's say even if half of them, let's go with Furia because Navi 2-0'd most of them. I'm going to go with Furia just on a whim here, just because this question feels like loaded to go in the direction. Like, unless it's a trick question, I'm going to lock in Furia.
That'll be close.
What happens now?
Furia.
Okay, it didn't go green. I just didn't know. Normally it goes green. I'm learning the new stuff. No, that's okay. Oof, great. 1 from 1.
Yeah, it's 17 maps versus 16, but it's still pretty funny.
You made a 1 map differential.
Yeah.
No.
Bro, that's fucking scuffed.
But I was trying to get to it as well. It's like 3 series in the groups, so you had at least 6 maps there, then 2 series in the playoffs before the best of 5. They play 5 maps in the best of 5, you know, so it's like 15 at least there.
Guys in chat, you gotta put your something in chat for me, right? It was great that I got that answer. You got to put something in there, chat. Come on, man.
Yeah.
All right, question number 2. Snax struggled individually, posting a 0.58 KD for the event. Sounds like my face at stats. Below him were Alex Glaive and which Australian? TJP.
Not Dexter or JKS?
No hesitation. TJP, 100% guarantee. Lock it in. Well, I was right again. Look at that. It's like I fucking worked the event and was coming up with skit and content and desk ideas every day, talking with production, in and out. Let's fucking go, baby. Question number 3, Lucas. I'm on a roll. Which player was caught using SnapTap in this tournament? Well, as we all know, unfortunately, the player that was rolled up in the SnapTap controversy was not Exertion, who is sponsored by Razer over there at Mouse. It was not Nico, who hasn't been using that keyboard for some time, he says. It was Tessus, who thought that he turned it off, but when you change PC, it can turn back on, and he didn't know. And ESL had a way to be able to pass it after and find out that he was using SnapTap. And unfortunately, they had to forfeit the map against NIP, and then they won the next map against NIP. But then NIP only had to win one map out of a best of 3, and they won the series. The correct answer is Tessus.
Great little recap. Oh, such a funny situation.
Wasn't it? It's a great time, though. Okay. Question number, I've lost the page. 4. Fuck, this light is bright and the screen is bright. Everything's bright. An unexpected player landed in the EPL top 5 highest rated. Whoa, this is easy. So, if you guys weren't paying attention, LinVision had a new roster, and the new roster consisted of flying, which you've probably heard of before, joining the likes of Zaka, Westmelon, and Amelia over there at LinVision. Now, there was one new player that got added to the roster, and I'm forgetting their name, but it was their first Tier 1 event. It doesn't matter because their name's not on this list right now. But you might be saying, well, Chad, who was AWPing for LinVision? Because before it was G. Was it this new bloke flying or the other guy whose name I can't remember? No, it was Zaka, and Zaka fucking popped off in a big way. Zaka was in the top 5 highest rated players at EPL. Lock it in, Eddie.
It is Afufu, the other guy.
That's it.
How's that a real name, bro?
I mean,
that's what's your little Pomerian dog leaves behind him? Afufu.
Bloody hell. Shit. Okay. Fuck.
That's pretty good.
We're smashing these today. Last one. Question 5. The 2 least played maps at EPL were Mirage and Vertigo, but the most played was Nuke. What else too? It was 100% Nuke. I don't even have to question it. I know it was Nuke.
100%.
100% Nuke. Locking it in. It was Nuke. 5 from 5. I really enjoyed this today. It was one where I was confident. I'd done my prep. I'd come in ready and raring to go, and I'll be taking the victory for you at home. The adoring Counter-Strike fans who watch HLTV Confirmed week in, week out. Skin Place has been spammed through the chat. One of you will be drawn as a lucky winner. Saysence, you've been following for 3 years. Wow. Are you like a lurker, Saysence? Do you say much? I haven't really seen you say much. If you are saying things, normally you're not criticizing me, so that's quite nice. Our people will reach out to your people.
Because you know all the people who do.
Yeah, and I've got pictures of them on my fucking wall. So yeah, congratulations, Saysence. Yeah, we'll sort you out with a $50 skin voucher, or a $50 skin or whatever Lucas will do. Anyway, great. SPUNJ gets one guide by every guy. Yeah, technically it's not getting one guide if you get done by everybody, right?
You get a lot of guides.
Bro, yeah. One guy's always, there's always a one guy. There's one guy that said, like, I tweeted 3 things about Navi winning. One guy is like, you should talk about Eternal Fire. I'm like, you should go fuck yourself.
Yeah, pretty.
I fucking loved Eternal Fire. It kind of broke me that they didn't win. It was so close. And the question is, will they ever get such a good chance again? We spoke about them already, so don't want to go backtrack. But I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be still relevant, but I don't know if they're ever going to be in a grand final on, they weren't on match point. They were on, last map.
Close.
And close in so many rounds. So I think that's a hard situation to get into again, and Counter-Strike being so competitive as it is right now.
All right, let's jump into just rounding out Pro League quickly. So G2, Spirit, Vitality, and FaZe, they're all going to be playing in Blast, if I have been paying attention. So are any of these teams ringing some form of warning bells, or is there any of them that you were like, it was a good performance, they just lost their series? I think like that could probably be said for G2, right? Like G2 looks strong against Liquid, even though they lost the map. The Liquid series was like 2 dominant maps for G2 and 1 dominant-ish map for Liquid. But G2 overall looked pretty good there. They took a map off of Navi, which is the bane of Hunter, Nico, and Monas' existence. So losing to Navi again, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I think like this is where we're talking about matchup-specific brackets, determining who's going to go deep or who's going to win.
But what do you think about the user in chat that is called G2 Kick Snax and Taz?
Snax is not contributing very well in the fragging department, is he?
It's actually horrendous how bad it is. I don't know how that's even possible, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess it makes a bit more sense why Nico might want to go to Falcons.
Yeah, could be a factor for sure. But I don't know. I don't know. That's a whole can of beans right over there on that side that I don't want to get into. But they're not horrible. Semifinal, lost to the winner. I think other teams. I think Vitality's loss to Eternal Fire was weird, concerning, and also like what a turnaround from like Apex individually in that series.
Hey, Lucas, mute your mic, motherfucker.
Versus Cologne, how he played in Cologne, which was pretty decent, I think, for an IGL. I think that was like, for IGL standards, like 8 out of 10 almost individually. For me, the Spirit game, Jesus Christ, once again, that game against Navi, I was so frustrated watching that. It's one of those games where you're offended that you took the time out of your day to commit to watching a game, and that is what you get. It's like,
I think that's how Freya and Trace felt like doing interviews with Zontix and Magic. So it's probably just everybody knows what that feels like.
Bro, I'm rubbing my hands. I'm looking forward to this game. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be so good. Like, even if it's bad, it's gonna be, there's gonna be some back and forth. There's gonna be some pop-offs from like individual players, blah blah. The way Chopper called that Dust 2 game.
I actually saw just the talk about it that I just saw like half of that game.
How do you have the best aggressive rifler in the world in Donk?
They only have, okay.
This is without a doubt.
But are you going to say Shiro next?
And you have Shiro, who's a top 5 AWPer.
And then they have nothing else.
Yes, but can you at least let these two guys play and do their fucking plays somewhere and not call 7 or 8 B tunnel pops? It was bad. I think bad. How can you not let these guys like play on Dust 2? How can they not get into fights anywhere on the map? How is literally every round ending with you guys running out of tunnels and kind of just like rolling the dice if they're gonna have like 2 people there or not? Like, it was so bad. It was horrible. It was awful.
It was bad. And I think that in Cologne, they were saying, oh, yeah, like Hallie took responsibility and Chopper took responsibility. This time round, they come third in their group. And then the teams that they beat in the bracket run were Furia and Imperial. And then they go up against Navi, a team that they hadn't lost to in 4 or 5 series or something along those lines. And then they go out there and they put that level of performance. I don't know, man.
They beat Mongols, they beat Wildcard, 3D Max, all of these teams that are in contention for major playoffs for sure,
Yeah, it's
maybe
not,
Mongols is, but the rest really not.
But it wasn't that long ago that they won London over Navi, so it's like, what do we do with this? Right now, they're not in their best form.
Everything since the player break has been pretty bad.
They won Betboom, didn't they?
Yeah, but who was a Betboom?
They beat Eternal Fire.
That is true.
So
okay, so you're right, Chad. And they're great. They're a great team. Nothing to be worried about. Yes, Betboom was not that bad. I take that back. But this was horrible.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about Spirit. I don't.
And then after that, what is the next map? It was also dog shit, but I can't.
They got owned on it as well. Was it Nuke?
Yeah, it was Mirage next.
That's right. That, of course, it was Mirage. Navi's
and
best.
They got like 7 rounds on CT side and 2 rounds on the T side.
Yeah,
2 rounds on the T side and 3 rounds on the T side on Dust 2. Like the T sides were absolutely horrible. Literally nothing. So
yeah, I don't know. I feel bad for Donk.
So Nafani to Spirit. This is what we're.
That's the answer. Yeah, and throw Chiron in there as well while you're at it. FaZe, I feel they're in a pretty. They lost to Complexity 2-0.
There are so many records broken this tournament. Yeah. Like the Navi to Spirit streak, Navi Grand Final,
best of 5.
Everyone except G2 broke. Complexity against FaZe.
Yeah.
Literally everyone except G2 broke the streaks.
The G2s can't be broken.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Okay.
But yeah, that's it. Like all of these teams we'll see in Blast, so we can talk about them like next week. So we don't need to like do it too much. We should move to Astralis. Should we move to Astralis?
Let's do it. Because I'm going to need some assistance with this one here, boys. Because I'll be honest, I don't do this thing anymore where I see a thing in the news happen and then I tweet my opinion out in limited characters to, let people know what I think. I want to try and like see what's being said and wait for the fallout and look for a little bit more. But there's two parts that we have to break this one down into. The one that I think is the more interesting is the more recent fallout, where there's been a bit of discourse over the last couple of days regarding how Astralis are even able to use cadiaN. And then there's the craziness of cadiaN reuniting alongside of Down and Yabby, which, considering the reason Heroic broke up was because we believe that Stown and Yabby didn't want to play with cadiaN, and now they're back on a team together. I've also said this once. I think I said this, or maybe we didn't release the podcast because there was an audio issue. Yeah, we did another Talking Counter episode, but I think there was an audio issue. Okay. This was before the cadiaN news, though, but it was just about Astralis' performance. And I said that I was very much so wrong about Device in-game leading. Like, I was under the opinion that because of his experience, that it could work because of the type of riflers that he had around him and the fact that they had played with cadiaN, who was an AWP in-game leader, and Stown and Yabby would be able to be the lieutenants to the general Device, and they would be able to make it work. And I thought that it could actually be a thing, and I thought Device would stick with it. So thanks to that, I will now never believe in a star player ever transitioning into an in-game leadership role ever again.
Then you have Twist and Liquid, who I think is somewhat beating the allegations.
Twist has always been an in-game leader. I don't know what you're talking about. The Device news, I will never believe them again. Anytime I ever read a statement from a player saying I am committed to this, I will never believe it ever again. So that's ruined now.
Bro took it personally. Yeah,
it's ruined now. It's over. I hope everybody enjoyed their fun, and I just wanted to apologize for everybody for ever having any belief in the idea that this could work. Now that I have said that I was wrong, and we've got that out into the open, let's talk about why the fuck, or even how the fuck, this has come about. Like, apparently, Nyholm said they got this done within 36 hours or some shit with Liquid. I'm sure Liquid couldn't wait to get him off.
I think it makes sense. They probably went on a fucking ayahuasca trip, and while under the influence of these drugs or herbs or whatever they are, they decided this was the solution, and everyone was just like kumbayaing their way into the lawyer's office, signed the contract, and probably put out the statement at the same time.
Can we acknowledge what that implies, by the way? I'm not sure they wanted to say that, because I think it implies a lot that they might not realize it implies. And I don't know if it's because I've also heard things behind the scenes that kind of complete the picture for me. But if it's
complete the picture for us, Striker.
If it got done at, like, okay, cadiaN has been out of Liquid for months. Like, there was plenty of opportunity to start these talks long time ago. There was no way that you needed a day and a half to make it happen in time for a roster lock or whatever it is. Basically it was for this major roster lock that's coming up. That was literally yesterday, where they could put him in as a sub, to sub out for Bro at the RMR, because they didn't manage to do it in time of the September 7th one. But just think about what that implies, that they needed to make it happen so last minute.
Look, Striker, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Don't play his game.
I'll play the game.
Make him say it, Prof.
I'm playing the game. I'm playing the game. I'm going to be a good little student. I'll be a student. That means that they only decided this after they lost in Pro League, and they didn't have any other plans, or their first plan fell through.
That's the second part, is what I heard was right, that cadiaN wasn't the first option, and all the other options fell through.
Tell me why Hooksy didn't join.
I have no idea what people like. Why? Because that also makes way more sense to me. I mean, why would you go through all the craziness of reuniting Stown, Yabby, and cadiaN, and the problems that were there that led to that in the first place? I mean, how are you so confident and making it happen in 36 hours somehow, like last minute, that it's not going to crop up again? Like, these issues are going to be okay, versus Hooksy, who has some reputation for maybe creating bad atmosphere or whatever it is from G2, and that may be playing a part in why he got kicked. Do you think the atmosphere is going to be so much better with cadiaN, with Stout and Yabby? And was it like, especially putting him as a rifler, like I'm not saying it's not going to work, but I'm just saying HLTV was so much more obvious that I just don't understand why that wasn't the first choice, because it clearly wasn't. I mean, he was absolutely free to go. He wouldn't have been expensive. Like it would not have been hard to get him out of G2 to go to Astralis. And from what I know, their first options fell through. Neither of them were HLTV.
So HLTV wasn't the first choice, you're saying?
Not the first options. From what I hear, it's more than one. And as far as I could tell, like neither of them were HLTV. Because I mean, if Astralis came knocking on HLTV's door, do you think there's no way that he would say? If there's any world that he would say no? Like there's no world. There's no world where they. No. It wasn't Glaive.
So it's
at least not. No. It's further up, and I don't want to talk about names because I don't know what that could imply. But you're thinking in-game leaders everywhere, which is interesting. But
wait,
okay.
So it wasn't. So they weren't even looking to get an in-game leader?
Let's say maybe they were, but not from in-game leaders. I don't know. It's hard to say. I just know some names, and at least I heard some names. I don't want to throw them out there because I don't have them corroborated. But I know that they were looking at some other names.
No one knows what the fuck is going on now. No one knows. cadiaN B mentioned in chat.
It could be. So it could be any Danish player who would in-game lead.
Maybe not even in-game lead. Maybe that wasn't even the first option, But because those
then
didn't
Device
work,
would have stayed in-game leading.
Yeah, possibly.
But now we've ended up here.
That's the interesting part about all this. Like it's like the whole thing about it being like, regardless of what I just said, regardless of there being multiple options, the fact that they made it happen so quickly just tells you something is wrong with that. It's not just they fail at EPL. I mean, they were failing for a while before that. I'm sure they were already thinking about, what they will do after this regardless. And I'm sure, if you really wanted to make something happen, you wouldn't give EPL as his proving ground. You would have already decided by that time, we just needed somebody else. Or maybe it was just about, was it even just about Device, wanting to change in-game leadership? Or was it just about they suddenly realized this cadiaN thing could work? I have no idea. All the information that I got don't make sense to me together, but it does make sense to me that they made it happen so late and that they previously tried for other players. I mean, that's the only explanation to me, because I don't see it as just they failed at EPL and that's why they just wanted to make it sudden change, before it was too late, let's say. So like from all these perspectives, I just feel it's such a crazily either rushed decision, very rushed decision. And how do you come to the cadiaN one if it's a rushed decision? You're just putting yourself in a position where this could all fuck up, and in a few months' time after the major, you're going to look again for a new game leader.
Look again like a clown.
Or it was the fact that they weren't trying to get an in-game leader in the first place, and they were willing to stick it out with Device until the end of the year, just with a different player, that maybe would have just been a better option than Bro. So like from all these perspectives, it just feels like it has such an air of incompetence to me that I don't understand how we got to this position. If you consider the HLTV this like situation in the whole thing.
Yeah, but you have to revise what you just said. You know how we ended up in this situation. We're dealing with Astralis.
That's my point. I mean, it's crazy that we got to this point.
Well, it's not, because we're dealing with Astralis.
I know.
I wanted to raise my hand to see like is Device gonna leave, but I went to his page and his contract is December 2026, which is
right. Yeah,
I'm just looking
more than 2 years away.
What if they tried to get like Shush, or they wouldn't go like
who's another anchor who would be a very good fit?
Magisk. But he could in-game lead, and returning to Astralis, and Falcons is shit. That would be crazy. But then Nico going to Falcons means, if that's the case, and Nico is going to Falcons and Magisk wasn't there, then they can literally completely rebuild the roster. And then we could have like Nico and cadiaN, and we could have m0NESY, and maybe we could have like Rops. We could have a pretty good team. That sounds great. Okay. Cool.
This is exciting. This is exciting.
It is like I just wanted to put this out there because it speaks to the incompetence to the level that it is incredible. Like it is absolutely. It does not like the whole puzzle does not make sense.
This is one thing to kind of poke a hole in this theory. Why even change bro then, bro?
I mean, clearly they wanted
just
to
keep him, bro.
If let's say they wanted to, but let's say they wanted to just improve the lineup. Like let's say they were really unsatisfied
not even
with
the
bro.
Problem with their team.
Well, yeah, I would also say it was not that crazy because I was pretty impressed with him. I mean, for a long time he was performing well for the position he was in. I mean, statistically at least didn't seem like a problem. I mean, he was playing a lot of the positions that he's used to as well. So I didn't see necessarily him as being the guy who would be out, but we all knew that if somebody would get switched, it would be him. Like if they had an option to upgrade, it would always be bro. Because I think Device has a very high regard for Stair.
He came in for free, you know, or something.
Yeah,
from Monty.
I mean, from Monty would have been probably fairly cheap. But anyway, like you know that he would be the white guy out, especially because like I think Astralis understand that they still have a big commodity in Stair, like in terms of he could be a future star for the team, you know. And clearly, like Device had a very high regard for Stair for a long time. So bro was always going to be the piece that they would switch out because it's not going to be Stown or Yabi.
Yeah,
like that's not going to happen
because of the money they spent on them, sure. But the whole thing, like, can we just recap for a second? So Stown and Yabi were in Heroic with cadiaN and Shush and Tessus, and they were a good team in World Counter-Strike. They would I be remiss to say they were a top 5 team at the time?
Yeah, for sure.
So they were a top 5 team at the time. And then obviously there was an issue that they couldn't get past as a roster to find solutions. But the whole thing with the team was they'd gone through so much adversity over such a long period of time with all the drama and all the tough matches and this, that, and the other. And people are saying top 3. Okay, whatever, guys. Top 5, top 3. My memory's not great. I'm old. Okay, there's holes in my brain. And there was like we would paint them as this brotherhood, especially the relationship with Stown and Casper. And then they disintegrate, right? And there's multiple ways that the story goes. We don't actually have the exact story. We don't have all of the details, but it seemed a little bit like Stown and Yabi wanted to get rid of cadiaN, and then cadiaN got benched, right? But then the team like disintegrated, and Stown and Yabi ended up going to Astralis, and cadiaN was still off of Heroic, and then cadiaN had to stand in for Heroic when he was off the roster at like one of those blast events towards the tail end of the year. So they obviously didn't want to play with Casper, right? That's how the team was left off. Then Casper goes over to Liquid, and the way the Liquid story goes, and just for the record, I actually quite like cadiaN. I get along with him quite well. He's always really nice to talk to at events. He seems like a stand-up guy. I've never had an issue with him. But the way the story goes is like the time at Liquid, there was clear clashes with people in Liquid, and they couldn't get on the same page. And Casper was one of the members removed from that roster with Skulls because it wasn't working, right? And he was the in-game leader and the AWPer, which was a really key piece. So like you can read into that however you want. You can say that maybe some of the issues that Stown and Yabi had with Casper could have been some of the same issues that existed over there in Liquid. I don't know. Like I don't know. Like I say, you could read into that. You could try and frame that however you want. But either way, he got removed from a team because they didn't believe. Then he went to another roster that had all this hype and groundswell, and then that didn't work out. And then now, after this period of him not playing and being away from the game, he is now the guy who they've called upon to come back and call the shots, not as an AWPer, but as a rifler who is most likely on the CT side going to have to play more like anchor positions as opposed to active positions. He can do secondary AWPing fine. He's not really going to do map control positions on the T side of the map because they've got Stown and Yabi. So what are we fucking talking about? This doesn't even make any sense from a role perspective.
That's why I'm so shocked about the whole HooXi situation. I mean, you have he would have been a pretty much like very solid fit for everything that bro was doing, or more.
He
was
already playing the bitch roles on the CT side for G2.
Yeah,
so that's pretty normal.
And you're the guy. I mean, he's gonna be doing a lot of entering. I mean, bro is also doing a lot of that. So again, very fitting player. Of course, he's gonna be a worse performer, and then compared to bro. But you have the in-game leadership part sorted out, and we also don't know that cadiaN was going to be any better than HooXi just being a rifler in anchoring positions. I mean, it's this first time that he's in those positions, and that's also a massive risk to take. And so, like, I'm kind of shocked, and it's not because I don't think that this absolutely couldn't work, but it's more because there were options where there was much less risk involved from all kinds of perspective. From the atmosphere perspective, trying to put the pass behind them. From the role perspective, having a HLTV who would be much better fit for those positions. Is it really just because they believe that cadiaN can be a better performer in those positions that they made that change? Because
I think it has to be like they think he's going to activate down. No, has to be that. That has to be.
Could be that for sure. Yeah, I mean, I could see the same thing from HLTV, to be honest, and not necessarily because, I mean, obviously they don't have previous experience, but he's also going to be the guy. Like, he's going to be the guy creating the space for him. He's going to be the guy who is going to set up Stown all the time, like in these positions, because Stown's always been the big trader, going second in and making sure that he's the big fragger. I mean, he would have been in a really good position for that. Of course, you have the history of cadiaN and Stown, but that history lets to a place where neither him or Yabi wanted to play with him, because it just got too much at some point. So, like, how is that the conclusion? I don't really understand it.
Well, I spoke to Stown, right, in a lengthy format, and he said he regretted the way that things went down with Casper.
Of course, I mean, that's probably more about the way that it happened, and kind of like the behind the scenes rather than splitting in the first place. I mean, I'm sure there was a reason why they wanted to get away from that in the first place. There were long-term issues. I mean, we heard for a long time that there were some internal struggles between cadiaN and the rest of the team. Maybe them not believing so much, him having maybe some temper issues, just being too harsh on the team, things like that. That there were kind of rumors flying around for a long time before this even happened. So like from all this, yes, of course, like the whole way that it was handled, I'm sure was terrible, and I'm sure that they realized that it was, but it doesn't fix the original problem that caused you to want to get away from that.
Well, should we, Prof, try and look at positives that this could bring? Because someone in chat said something I agree with wholeheartedly here, is that they can have a really strong double up setup with cadiaN and Device. What do you think when you look at this roster? Do you see anything? I'm not reaching.
Putting me on this, yeah, but Stown could also op, so it doesn't really. I don't think that makes the double op.
They'll have a really strong triple op setup then, won't they, Prof?
Yeah, there you go. When they bring back Train, it's going to be a game changer. I don't know. Honestly, for me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Also, are they actually going to change and play the heroic style? Is this what's actually going to happen with this lineup? Because in some ways, I don't really believe it. I don't really believe that they're going to be like the super aggressive not flow state, but like flowy defenses lineup. That doesn't really make sense a lot to me. I don't think it.
I mean, it is literally the same core. I mean, that's
it is.
Why is that so hard to believe?
I think they lack TeSeS and SPUNJ.
Okay.
I think like both of them were the selfless players on the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you say cadiaN is going to play those roles, he's not going to be as good as in them. And I think like TeSeS being the more aggressive one and SPUNJ being the more like, I'm just going to chill and you guys do whatever, you stack the other side. I can hold my own.
And also cadiaN, I mean, he was calling these plays from a position of the opera who was very rotatory anyway, and who was obviously had a lot more information than you have as an anchor, from a side. So you're also going to have a
lot of the problems come first from that, and then secondly the fact that he's not opping. So you have Device who is opping, who's going to be in these positions that he wants to be in, based on his calling previously. So it's going to make. I don't know how they plan to work around that, because I feel like there's a bit of a clash. Either Device is going to call his shots, and that's going to be like going to add some like delay to what's happening, or they're just going to have to rely on other people to call in the moment. I feel like you can't really expect, let's say on a CT side, Mirage, cadiaN to be like B apps
and
holding
calling the mid
and
control
and calling like mid control, or even on the CT side being like, oh no, you guys, two guys on A push Palace now, you know.
But
I
if
think
they do
that's,
play the Astralis style, their Profit is more all in. Like I understand, I agree
but
with
then
what
what's
you're
the
saying.
point of having cadiaN? Then that doesn't make any sense either. So they have to play the cadiaN style. Otherwise, you bring in cadiaN if you're not going to play the cadiaN style. It makes absolutely no sense, especially if he's not AWPing. So
I think they are going to play the cadiaN. They have to play the cadiaN style.
I think they'll try, and I think they'll fail. This is what I think.
Okay. Yeah. Well, can we get into the next bit of drama, or do we have more we want to say about the roster?
I think we pretty much covered it.
Yeah. I think our overall sentiment is not too optimistic about this. Are we?
I don't care anymore.
He's so hurt.
I believed.
Device hurt you, bro.
I
It
believed.
hurt you so much.
I'll never believe again. So let's talk about this substitution rule. Now, another one of these situations that I'm going to have to kind of try and get ahead of before we get into it. And I want people to understand that multiple things can exist at once. All right. I want to get into a conversation.
Mysterious, I like it.
Maybe it's not one that we will spend a lot of time on tonight. We will just deal with the facts of how things are currently in play.
Mm-hmm.
But my first thought was not how fucked up of Astralis or how double standardy of Blast or anything like that. That's not the first thing that came to mind when I saw this. The first thing that came to mind when I saw this was, why do we have these antiquated, dumb fuck roster rules in the first place? That's the first thing that came to mind.
I understand.
That's the first thing that came to mind, and but that's before I started looking at any of the bullshit behind it. Now,
it is a valid thought to have. It's not like you're wrong to have this line of thinking, you know.
Now that we'll leave it. We'll grab that thought and we'll understand that these roster rules don't have to exist, and we'll put it on a shelf and we'll visit that another day.
Yeah.
Let's
say why. Let's first say why that's irrelevant at the moment, you know, because obviously, you know, in the past, as long as these rules exist, that they should be held consistently. All the teams should be held consistently to them, right? And historically, teams were in seemingly much worse situations and weren't allowed these switches, you know. So let's just say from that perspective, you know, that's why we have a problem with this, because you're right, you know, like obviously nobody here would say I would much rather have Rugga play at the tournament, you know, or have them play with everybody, or have them play with Bro, you know, that's a dead roster. Like either way, I'm sure people would much rather see their real roster in play, but that's not the point here. Like, regardless of you having that thought, of course, like I don't think anybody would ever argue that, but that's not the point. The point is fairness.
And it's not fair what's happened here. So as we saw come out from Bros, or in case people missed the details, this emergency rule, the player would need to be sick, ill, have a broken arm, be unable to compete for some medical emergency reason. Now, Bros' agent put out
or get into travel issues or something that would just obviously prevent him from participating in the event.
Sure, be on an aeroplane and it turned out it was a spaceship and now he's on the moon. Yeah, something which would make it as an impossibility.
I think that would be an emergency, yes.
Right? But the thing is, Bro's agent tweeted out saying Bro is perfectly fine. And I think that this is where the dramas are, because if you want to get conspiratorial, right? Because I fucking love a good conspiracy. If you want to get conspiratorial, obviously the Blast and Astralis relationship that used to exist is your first place to start sniffing. But then your noses are going to prick up even more so, gentlemen, when you know that the fall finals is in what country?
Denmark.
Ding, 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 ding. Thanks for playing along, Striker. I know I didn't play along with your little game before, but I'm glad you did with mine. And where have there been two massive esports events this year over the titles of CS2 and Dota 2? Denmark.
Not where fall final is going to be.
Not in the Royal Arena, yeah.
But it's in
the same country, yes. It's in same city.
And like, I swear someone was telling me that the other day, one of the orgs who's attending put out some tweet saying like that there's like a sale on the tickets for the event.
True.
It seems, I've heard, like, I don't know how much exactly, but I've heard that the ticket sales are pretty bad.
So if the ticket sales are bad and the Danish representatives were going to be playing without, I don't know, their big name players, right? Or we're going to be playing with their coach or something, then it's less enticing for the Danes to want to buy tickets and go. But the idea now that cadiaN could be rejoining, I'm sure the tabloid magazine that they've got over there, TV2, is probably running cadiaN rejoining and we'll be playing. Martin will get another message. It'll be fine. I can't wait for it. But I'm sure that
opinions expressed by Chad are his does not reflect this outlet. Thank you.
Just me. But yeah, this whole thought process behind, like, you know, Blast are incentivized to have Astralis and cadiaN there to try and sell more tickets. If you want to get conspiratorial,
I will counter that with one thing, because I absolutely that is a view I'm sure a lot of people will take. I will say, though, and I don't remember how much of a public issue it was at the time, but the whole Stout and Yabi situation happened basically around the fall final as well. And they ended up pushing the announcement of them joining after the event, even though, like, they were, as far as I know, they were pretty much finalized before fall final. And Astralis did try to get them in for the fall final and failed. Like, Blast denied their move to get Stout and Yabi in time for the full final. Of course, at the time, it's two players, you know, trying to make a claim that you have two players going out on an emergency would have probably been difficult. It is a slightly different situation, but it is like the motivation was even higher at that time, because the talk around Astralis at the time was insane. Like, it would have made that event extremely appealing to people to come to buy tickets to see them play for the first time, especially, you know, in their hometown. So of course it would have been also very appealing. So I'm just as to put that as kind of a counter to your argument, even though it's not necessarily the same situation.
Yeah, and look, like I'm saying, I don't think these roster rules should exist in the first place. So
to be honest,
me,
like,
if you removed it, it wouldn't matter. Like,
there's you generally, unless you knew Astralis was making a roster change, which is potentially Blast didn't know they were making a roster change when, based on what is put out by the sides, Astralis was just like, bro has a medical emergency, we'll need the sub. And they were like, okay. And then it's like, cadiaN is joining Astralis after that. Then you can be like, well, this is maybe a bit sus. Like, at first it just seemed pretty normal, but now maybe it's not true. But you already said yes, and then now you're in a kind of a sticky situation, which doesn't excuse it, and it should probably be a bit more strict, especially because of the situations that happened, like with FaZe and Config, when Config wanted to stand in, and then there was like some ties to, I don't know, Astralis or some shit. It was. I don't know which team he was tied to or something, but it was essentially no one really cared, but the rules were the rules, so we followed the rules, and he couldn't play. He
wasn't standing for heroic, and that's whatever. It doesn't matter. The details doesn't matter. Yeah.
So then, if we have the precedent already that we're not allowing teams to play, then we should stick with it to the end. But yeah, it seems like it's going through.
That's the problem that people have, right? Is the double standard essentially that's being presented.
I mean, Kerrigan tweeted about it because obviously he was on the other side of this. But when they got the S-Attack last minute instead of Config, who was already there. Like, there are reasons why these rules are in play. Essentially, you want to build a whole broadcast. You need to fly in players. There's a lot of things that need to be done, and to respect, you know, the people that are working, and to get, you know, not make silly changes last minute. But all of that's fine. Ultimately, no one really cares if one video has a player that's not there versus actually having the best team possible, realistically. And also, in my opinion, the teams, if they fuck up flights and stuff, they should just have to pay for the flights. You should just invoice them the price of the new flights or whatever.
Or just take it out of their prize money, right? Yeah. If there's some additional costs that this causes.
These are things that should be. I know it's annoying, and I'm involved with the HLTV awards. It's not the same thing, but it's also like flying in a lot of people and stuff like this. It gets pretty overwhelming. But ultimately, we're all here to watch the best Counter-Strike possible, and having dead teams is not that. No one wants that. I think we should kind of just do better. We should just do better.
Yeah, which is where we circle back to the initial point that I made, right? Like if we, and I don't know what the rules are going to have to be next year regarding rosters, because like let's say
I don't think there's anything that's particularly going to be enforced by Valve.
But there has to be something enforced, right, Striker?
Why?
Because, well, let's say for example that you get invited to attend an event, and let's say that you're invited a month before said event, right? And then you change 3 players within your roster.
You cannot. Obviously, that doesn't work because that's
my point. There has
but that's
to be
already
some roster
enforced.
rules.
But that is enforced through kind of. It has to be a 3-man core that's invited to the event. So of course maybe there's a way to get around it because we see how Valve is kind of effectively allowing not the same cores to be invited further through the sub rule. So maybe they don't really care about this being a particularly big issue. But there are some ways. Obviously, there's going to have to be some particular rules, but also if you're a TO, you probably don't want teams to go around it this way either, if from their perspective. So I don't think we have to be too worried about that.
What's like, I think what happens if like you change 2 players within a roster and it was a 16-team event, right? I'm just speaking hypothetically,
Sure.
And you were the 16th invited team and you changed 2 players, but then the team was ranked 17th at the time.
It doesn't matter because Valve ranking doesn't care about the core. It doesn't work the same way as HLTV, where if you remove a player or 2, it's going to take out 20 or 40%. It's just as long as you have the same core, you still stay the same core that's like played in the previous I don't know how many tournaments that count in the ranking, but you just have to keep the core to maintain your ranking. It doesn't matter. You can change as many players as you want as long as you keep the 3-man core. You'll keep your points. You'll keep your position. So it wouldn't matter.
So that's where the effect, which is essentially what would solve this whole problem that we're finding ourselves in right now with the Astralis thing. If they'd be keeping the core, right? They're definitely keeping the core. Of course, they change one player.
This whole line is obviously different, like a different conversation compared to what the issue at hand is, because. Of course, we can have this conversation later, when we have a little bit more space and think about how we can approach this from 2025. And it is something I want to do, kind of talking about a lot of these cases, where teams just had dead teams playing and nobody wanted that and all that, and what the issues are with, having teams change lineups last minute. For example, like I was talking to a player just today, and they are also very against roster lock rules in the first place, but there's also kind of a concern about if you're an opponent of a team, you don't want to find out the day before that they're playing a different team that you were expecting, and you don't want teams to be hiding the roster changes in that way. You want to have some lead up. Of course, it's not 3 weeks because nobody's preparing for a match 3 weeks ahead of time, but let's say a week ahead of time, like you just shorten that window to, let's say, a week, where you give the opponent enough time to understand what team they're playing against, or what changes that were made.
What did cadiaN get announced for this? Just to
it would have been somewhere around the week, right? Maybe a bit more.
So that's the thing, like
somewhere
it's
around
touch
the
and
week.
go
Like
with
it would have
this
been
right here with what we're talking about.
17th, and the event starts tomorrow, so 25th. So it would have been 8 days before.
Okay.
So it would have been in.
But
that
let's say
timeline.
it happened yesterday.
Right, but I don't know if
we would still want the actual roster that's going to be there as opposed to the dead team. Right?
I'm just saying there are still some considerations to having at least a brief period before a tournament where no changes can happen. But then again, you can also register sub, like you can still get around this by registering subs, and you still expect the team to play, but then at the event they just decide to sub out the player. So that you can still like kind of get around telling the other team what lineup you're going to be using if you just get around it. But at least, that kind of hints, that kind of tips off the other team that there might be some changes,
Yeah, but also
in any way,
like
it's
who's benefited more though in that situation? It's like, oh, they were hiding the roster change. It's like, yeah, well, they probably haven't like if the teams who are practicing against one another, those are the guys that talk, right? Like that's the inner circle. If you can crack in there, like Overdrive has, for example, then you're gonna get like a tap of information. You're gonna get the information over everybody else. Like, but
sometimes you can also hide who that player is, right? You can know. Anyway, like I'm just saying there are some considerations that, like, there are 2 parts of the argument. I generally fall on the same page as you. Like, I really don't want there to be any locks that prevent us from having the best teams at the tournament available. It's impossible. Like, it's crazy to me that nobody's ever really made any sort of a big push, because I've been trying to fight this forever. I've written about this, I've tweeted about this, I don't know how many times, beyond counting whatever situation occurred, that a team couldn't play with their right player and they wouldn't be able to use a stand-in, or they just changed players too close to the event, to play with the new player, or they had to postpone changes because they wouldn't be able to play at that event. Like all this stuff just makes events much worse, and I would much rather if they were abolished. I'm just saying, there are certain factors that have to be considered as well.
I hope the TOs don't get to stay in control of roster rules like this.
Well, yeah, but I don't know if
the Valve gets to decide.
Well, if considering Valve is currently putting a roster lock for more than a month and doing qualifiers for like 3 months ahead of a tournament and things like that, I don't know if that's necessarily the.
I mean, they're not even in control of the major roster locks.
Maybe I take it all back then. I take it all back.
So and they're putting in roster rules that allow you to get invited by 2 players out of the 5 team that earn that spot and all that stuff. So I'm not sure if you want Valve having this sort of a power.
Good point. But this kind of plays into where we go next. If we're happy to jump.
Can I have a question?
Of course.
Question. So there's a guy in chat. There's a person in chat that said multiple times that the company that owns HLTV is in bed with Astralis, and which is not true, and it's been resolved years ago, and it was like a super minority thing of an owner's private ownership. It doesn't matter, but it's been resolved. Said that 2 times, and has now said that he wishes, or they wish, Valve would sell CS to someone that would nourish it. Am I allowed to ban this person? Is this like this is trolling, right? This is troll.
I don't think it's trolling, spreading false information.
You are getting one guide right now, Prof.
I'm getting one guide, but I need like a mental.
You can ban him, of course.
Yes, thank you. I haven't done this in a while.
I blocked so many people on Twitter today. So like, just do whatever you want.
Oh
man.
shit! I guess because of the video, right?
Yeah.
Shout out to JL in chat, by the way.
The thing.
Hello,
JL. Congratulations. Nice win. Ban whoever you want, Prof. That's what I always say. It's the internet. What are they going to do about it?
They can still watch, right?
Yeah, they can still watch. They just can't contribute, and that's probably going to.
We got an article on Dust2DK, by the way.
We got an article.
I mean, Striker got an article.
Oh no!
For the Astralis rumors, there's just quote: Astralis first choice fell through. Doesn't even say Striker. Just says quote without your name. Because
I don't matter, man.
You're so mid. You're so mid. You're not even worth putting in a headline.
I'm banned from Denmark, so.
Are we talking about the roster changes? I have them written down here.
Yes, but what I wanted to do, something that I need you guys to help me with. Oh, that's nice.
Little dogs.
I need you guys to help me to understand with like these rosters being changed, right? What is that implications does that have on the RMR?
Wait, what? Sorry.
So like rosters who had already qualified for the RMR.
Yep.
Who are making player changes.
Yep.
I thought I read something somewhere that wasn't okay. Didn't you make some tweets about this the other day, Striker?
There was kind of a confusion there because for a long time the rule was that once you pass the open stage and you're playing in the closed qualifier, you were just locked for the major cycle. You couldn't change teams anymore. You just had to play it out with whoever you were a part of. It seems to have changed at least before the last major, before Copenhagen, because Messiozo was telling that at the time they got a move that would have broken that rule approved by PGL. So it seems that it changed somewhere recently. Just nobody really tried it or nobody made it happen so that it's kind of came to light. But it seems that now you can change or you can include teams or players from the closed qualifier as long as they didn't qualify. Because teams who qualified from the closed qualifier, they cannot change their core roster anymore. So whoever's part of the main roster has to stay there. Even if they're going to get subbed out, they have to stay submitted on that roster, which means they cannot be submitted for anybody else. But whoever got eliminated in this closed qualifier can be listed as a sub for another team that qualified through the closed qualifier or for another team. Or they could have been listed even as part of a lineup for another team who got directly invited to the RMR or now added as a sub past the main roster lock that happened, because there were 2 different ones. There was first for the main roster, and then they could change sub or coach for another 2 weeks after that, until yesterday. So that was the confusion. I got told the wrong information at first. Like I checked this literally a week ago because I heard of another team trying to get in a player that did qualify, and they were denied that. And I was told that when I asked specifically if you played, not if you qualified in closed qualifier, and I was told yes. like they would be locked, but that's not true. Like other teams have been told otherwise, and I checked again, and it seems it was just a miscommunication. They just told me the wrong information at the beginning. So now you are allowed to do that. But otherwise,
teams like Gamer Legion is making changes, I guess.
Yeah, that would be one of them. I don't know if they're getting somebody who was playing in the close qualifiers or not, but I know that, I mean, obviously they're going to be one of the teams affected. There's somebody else. I don't want to say names before.
I have some TSM made changes. They did not make it. They did
right.
Make it?
Yeah.
Did they make it?
Yeah.
They made a change and stuff like that. Yeah. So roster shuffles.
Yeah, hit us.
I'll just run up. This is kind of chronologically how it happened. Monty removed
Can I
LMBT.
just say, by the way, like before we get into this part, I've been trying to push a little bit more behind the scenes for a resolution to this, because nobody really got satisfying answers about how this situation is going to be resolved around Astralis, because there's a clear clash between what the agent is saying and between what the claim is that Astralis, the basis on which Astralis got the emergency change, because it was, according to the agent, there's no medical situation. Of course, I mean, there have been no further comments made, and I suspect that's because of protection of Bro, and kind of potentially fear of retaliation. But that is clearly already what he was saying. I mean, that's clearly in clash of what Astralis are claiming, or what Blast is claiming was the basis for the change in the first place, And I know that a lot of teams are pissed off about this because, and of course, like as you were saying, Kerrigan already said, kind of insinuated that he's not happy about this on Twitter. Apex did the whole meme about like, if I speak, I'm in big trouble, and they're about to play Astralis, so of course he's invested in this situation, and like there are multiple teams that are clearly not happy about this and that are trying to get answers behind the scenes, and they're not getting anywhere with it. And we haven't either. We didn't really get satisfying answers on why this was allowed in the first place, if there was any documentation that proved anything that the Astralis were claiming, or what exactly the basis was. And it's not that we need to know exactly if there is a medical issue on Bro's part, what that was exactly, but we at least want to know if that was proven in some way. We don't need to see the proof. We just need to know that it was proven in some way, and there was not some backroom deal, between Astralis and Blast, because that's what we want to avoid, right? These rules only work if there's transparency.
But
and
there doesn't have to be a backroom deal for the two of them if Astralis just falsified.
Of course, I mean, but that's something that you cannot really get around of, right? Like,
but also,
eventually, unless that comes out. Look, of course, there's going to be ways to go around it. The point is that's not even. We're not even getting an answer to that. If there is anything that they put forward as proof that there's a problem, there's something like the basis of this. And so these rules only work if there's transparency, and you can hide behind, confidentiality all you want, but unless you everybody knows that this looks suspicious. I mean, you just got in a new player a week ago and you're claiming that the player you replaced is having medical issues when the agent is claiming he's not.
But it is suspicious.
So I'm sorry, but it's very obviously it is. Like I'm saying, that's no undeniable. There is a very suspicious timing, but that's why we need the transparency. That's why we need to know if this is legitimate, because it certainly looks. It certainly looks illegitimate. It certainly looks illegitimate, and as everything that's been said publicly makes it look illegitimate. And there's enough that's been said publicly that makes it look illegitimate. And it doesn't matter whether it's Astralis' fault or Blast's fault for allowing this. I'm sure Astralis could have just tried it without, putting forward any proof. And Blast allowing it in the first place would also be their fuck up. It doesn't, of course it matters whose fuck up it was. We need to know who to blame if there was a fuck up. But it could be either one, or it could be both. So, but we just need to get to the bottom of this, because this can't fly.
What's going to happen?
I mean, look, teams can push behind the scenes. Teams can band together to try to get to the bottom of this, because they're not getting answers. I'm telling you that much.
What is the odds of that happening?
Well, with enough pissed off people, I think the odds aren't that bad.
They play in 2 days.
Yeah, I know, but they're all going to be in the same room tomorrow.
Oh.
Or in the same hotel, at least.
Well, we have a saying in English. It goes, let's call a spade a spade.
Right.
Right. And I I think regardless.
I understand. Like, we know how players are notoriously bad at coming together. I mean, the CSPPA was basically a joke for most of its existence, and that was also, of course, part of the.
I love
because
how
of the
the
organization.
one time the players actually band together was for the most bullshit reason of all time.
What was
Do you
that?
guys remember this for the blast thing about like
Oh, the voice comms.
with the voice comms?
Ah, yeah, okay.
Jesus Christ! Like that's the thing you're like making a precedent on.
I mean, at
don't
least
know.
I understood that. I don't think that's so egregious, to be honest, because it's about kind of integrity, right? I mean, it's about protecting your strats and all that stuff. I mean, I understand if you feel threatened to your game, you will step up, you know. But like, I understand where you're
Would have
coming
been
from.
nice to see them do one more thing ever after that.
Right,
That's
yeah.
all I'm saying. But yeah, I think this is one of those things. If people just keep bringing it up, and they should and will, but we kind of can circle back to what we talked about an hour ago about like managers and like you can't interview this player and you can't ask this question, and a lot of outlets will just be okay with that, but some of them won't. And I think if enough people continue hammering at this, you know, then something will have to come out.
I hope so, because I mean, we've obviously done a lot to expose the issue, and it's not like we made a deliberation of whether that was a fuck up, because we just don't have all the information, right? Like, I mean, we can point to what the agent said or what the basis for the change was, but we're not getting further answers on anything, and we're only getting kind of half answers on that are like kind of muddled by confidentiality. And partly I would understand that if there really was a medical issue, but you can't hide behind it with this sort of a suspicion around it. And the easiest way to get around it would be to let bro speak. If you get bro to consent to information being released, then it's of course it's easy to say, like, he could just come out and say, yeah, I have a problem.
Yeah, but
How
he's
hard
still
is it? Like,
he's benched, right?
I know.
So
But-
he's still under contract with Astralis, right?
I understand.
So
yeah.
he's still getting paid by Astralis, right?
But let's say, what would be the reason for bro not to speak in this case?
So he keeps getting paid.
I mean, that would be, of course, that would be one.
But
Let's say a legitimate reason that is not covert or.
In the case that he would be sick, let's say, why wouldn't he say that? That doesn't make any sense. But bros,
His
especially,
his representation has already said he isn't.
Of course, but especially if your organization is under so much heavy fire that they would be incentivized to tell you, like, look, you need to say something. Like, at this point, you know, we want you to say something so that we don't look so bad.
But I think the reality, Striker, is that everyone knows this is not real,
right?
But no one wants to admit it. And
What do you mean no one wants to admit it?
No one. I mean, no one from the involved.
Oh, okay.
Wants to admit this.
Okay. Well, of course they don't, because they're playing in the gray area of the rules.
Everyone's just like waiting for it to blow over, and that's it.
But that's my point. Like, there's really no reason, because there's so much motivation for him to speak. If there is anything that actually causes a problem, you know, or even if, let's say, Astralis wanted to put the blame on Blast for, like, they asked about the situation, and it wasn't necessarily a medical problem that they put forth. They just explained the situation, like, okay, we just cannot play with this player anymore, and Blast just allowed it. That would also be terrible, but Astralis would also be very motivated to say that it wasn't their fault that this got allowed, that this got through, but that they just tried an avenue and they just got it allowed, you know? Like, they could shift the blame on Blast, but that's also not happening.
No, but isn't that what's happening? Isn't the stance from them like, so this was the rule, this is what we did?
I mean,
Blast
in some ways,
it,
yes.
And now that's it. Like, isn't that what's happening?
Well, I don't think they're doing that full on, at least. I mean, they're just, both of them are just like, Astralis followed the proper procedure. Astralis are saying, yeah, we followed the proper procedure.
Yeah, but
and
in
that's all that
classic
we heard.
Astralis fucking PR trained from Steen way, like, the response is like sassy as fuck. It's like,
that was
we're not gonna.
That was kind of funny.
I don't have the exact wording, but it's like, oh yeah, we're not going to talk about like an employee's like medical.
You
shit.
should know this.
Yeah, it was very putting the blame on us as if we're not within rights to ask. And it's also like, you know, they said we're not going to educate a Danish-owned company about discussing our employee, you know. And I'm thinking, like, Yeah, but those privacy laws only come in place if your player doesn't want you to talk. Like we're completely within rights to ask. Like there's nothing preventing us from asking these questions. There's nothing that suggests like we should take your considerations into ours. So that's like as if there's some ethical problem with us asking that what exactly like what did you do to prove there's an issue? What is the issue? You know, it doesn't like we're not prevented from asking questions. Of course you are within rights not to answer those questions, but you cannot hide behind Danish law and telling us that we should know the Danish law, so we should never even ask. Like, I'm sorry, but you don't get to do that. That's not how it works.
This is, I think, the maddest I've ever seen Striker on this show.
Like, I'm pissed off because it is unfair, and I'm more pissed off by the minute because I can see that a lot of other people are, but nothing's happening around it really, and it's almost like there's some world where they both get away with this without explaining what really happened. You know,
of course they do. What are we talking about? Of course they will.
But that's why I'm pissed off. Yeah, because I see the possibility that they will.
The only people who can do anything about it are the players or the orgs. There's
that's
nobody
why the
else.
I mean, the orgs have every motivation to band together and fight this because they were the ones
getting money because they're fucking partner teams. Who gives a fuck? Like, why would they give a fuck?
Because they were denied. Like, some of these teams were denied the same opportunity, and they would have been denied the same opportunity if it happened. I mean, they are aware of the unfairness.
But that was yesterday's money. We're talking about today's money, bro. Like we're talking about these businesses. How does it even really impact these businesses?
Winning tournaments, qualifying for majors.
Look, it is their motivation to fight it because, like, if in the future something like this happens again, they're going to be the ones that are going to pay for it if it happens to them, right? So of course it's not. Look, I'm not saying it's some strong motivation for each of those organizations, or like every organization thinks this way. Some of them just have a much more like, let's say, you know, Spirit, they always submit their academy players, like, for any situations. They're always going to use academy players to replace their main team anyway, you know, so they're maybe not one of the teams that are going to be particularly struck by this, you know, but a lot of them are. Like, I can tell you, like, it is very clear that there are teams that are not happy with this, and like, it just needs to move. It just needs to get somewhere.
About a TO, because where the partner teams sign a contract with the TO where they can't even tweet if they're unhappy about any of the things at the event. Like, what?
Yeah. Well, that's why you get them all together. That's why you need to move together, right? Like, that's why you cannot just try to do it individually, because then you put yourself in a disadvantage, right? Like, that's why it needs to be a joint action. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Because
I would love to see something happen. I just don't think that they will band together and do anything.
Yeah, I know.
I have no faith in humanity, Striker.
I understand.
After Device.
After Device. I've completely lost faith in all of humanity since Device has thrown in the towel from in-game leading. Yeah. It's all over. It's all over, man. It's all over.
But I just hope that we can create enough pressure to get the answers that we need. You know, regardless of who we need to blame, what exactly happened, what really happened, we do need to find out the truth about this. Like, I don't care
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm going to apply some pressure. This is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to co-stream their event this week. I'm going to apply as much pressure as I can by not co-streaming the event.
We did get rights to co-stream the World Finals.
Oh, shit.
So that was last week. So I don't know if that's going to change since Striker spent an hour talking shit here. But yeah, we'll just complete off topic, but I think we finished. We will be doing the stream from Red Bull giveaway start of November. A podcast there with some of the Swedish guys, and then the next 2 days after that, we'll be doing the co-stream of World Finals, semis, and Grand Final.
Am I there for all 3? I thought I was only coming for 1 day. Am I there for 3 days?
You said yes. You said yes to this. We had a call. You said yes.
I'm there for 3 days. Really? I thought you said I was just coming in and doing one thing and leaving.
But then I said, like, maybe we could do the co-stream. And he said, oh yeah, that's a great idea. This is what you said. This is literally what you said.
Verbatim. I don't know. I don't remember what he said, but something like that. Yeah.
The Striker is here. He can confirm this.
I remember having this talk. I didn't. Yeah.
This is 100% what you said. Just saying.
All right.
It's nice. It's nice. Did you see the hotel? It's really nice.
No, I didn't see the hotel. Okay, Fuck.
It's just the beginning of November. It's not going to be that bad.
Then I'm gone for all of November.
You're gonna get paid, so.
But you're going to be home for a week after that or so, right? Yeah.
4 days.
Sorry.
And
Anyway,
they have PCs, and you can play Counter-Strike there.
yeah, but my girlfriend's probably going to kill me.
Well, you can bring her as well.
Yeah, I think that's what I'll have to do. We'll go to Sweden.
Let's go.
Okay, let's do these roster changes.
Okay,
Striker
I'll do a
flies
very
to
quick.
Denmark
I'll do a
and
very quick.
fights Astralis.
As a Danish employee, he cannot fight Astralis because they are owned by the government. Everyone knows this. This is kind of fake news, but it's not. It's kind of, there is something there.
I mean, they are Blast is partly owned by the
minus
government.
LMBT, ENCE minus Goofy plus NKJ, TSM plus Syrah. Sashi is playing with Altex, even though it's not confirmed as a lineup change. Bleed minus Nexa minus Hampus minus naugthy plus Vladan plus Patty plus question mark. The naugthy thing came today, so we can maybe touch on that a bit. Sticko is now a free agent. Gamer Legion minus
He's on the
Andu.
broadcast even.
Well, Striker, if you want someone to apply pressure to Blast, you need to get on the phone with Stico and tell him to attend.
That would be like, yeah.
Agile minus Andu. That was interesting because like Ash was on Naked Banter, said how his team was most professional ever, and then next day Andu is gone. Is like he doesn't fit the team culture or something. I found that interesting. OG plus Buzz.
He's already been there for a while, but yeah.
Ecstatic plus TMB minus Towson and NIP minus Alex. These are all the things that happen in the last few weeks.
Plus
I think
missed them. Plus missed them.
Yeah, plus missed them, and plus the assistant coach.
I mean, that's maybe the most interesting of those.
Naugthy to
Fnatic.
Interesting.
Honestly,
That's
Fnatic.
also
Fnatic. When you look at the lineup, low key they cooking.
Yeah,
They cooked something. So I'm gonna apologize to Karn now.
I don't
Or really
think
do
he
this in
had-
person.
I don't think he had anything to do with the decisions that have gone over there, mate. Do you?
No, I'm just fucking with you.
I think he was excited about the prospect of a top 16 at an ESL Pro League. So you can tell how fucking out of touch we are. But I think you're bang on. I think Mattis is good. Like he's proved his worth within that team. Definitely a big impact player. Blame looking very strong within that roster as well. The AWP was probably the thing that was letting him down the most with Afro, but with his little statement, it seems like maybe they weren't giving him all of the freedom and moves that.
What did he say? I didn't see that.
It said Fnatic has decided to bench me. It was a good time and a pleasure to play with all the teammates that I've had during this time. Unfortunately, the team didn't work as much as we all wanted it to work. During all the time I spent in Fnatic, I gave everything I could to make the group work. I sacrificed a lot, but I don't regret anything. My recent performances doesn't reflect what I can bring to the table in a team, and I know my value in a group that believes in me. Thanks for the support during my time in Fnatic. I'll be back stronger. So I guess like this is a classic thing that can happen with players. I think AWPers and in-game leaders are probably the ones who will be affected by it the most, and then probably your aggressive entry fragging riflers. But in terms of like being kind of nurtured or corralled, probably not nurtured because nurtured has a positive connotation, but corralled in a certain direction. Like if you're going for these type of peaks or plays and they're not working and then the team feels like it's sacrificing too much, then you're going to lose part of your identity or the way that you're calling. So I don't know. I'm reading into this. I am making a lot of assumptions here. But I think the addition of naugthy to this roster is really cool. I think that obviously Crims is still there and having big games every now and again, right? Crims, the eternal. So I think it's a pretty nice roster. I'm having a hard time poking holes in it, but in terms of like how deep they can go, I think they can be like a cusp team. Now I think they can bring themselves within like a top 16 type of status within the world. I think that's a realistic expectation for this roster, to be completely honest with everybody playing at home. So a decent chunk of firepower. Where are they right now? 28th. Yeah, that's not impossible. I think it's actually pretty doable. And Naugthy can be very impactful as well. So that's probably, out of all the ones you said, Prof, the one that I'm the most excited about.
I kind of agree. Yeah, the bleed thing is like that's kind of a restart of the whole project, right? Weirdly enough, the two big out of all of the, I would say, like kind of big names that they had, they're keeping Cypher and Jacob, which seem like the two players that have the biggest clash on the team, which I think is very
buried
problematic.
by that change so hard. Like you can tell from the way that he just took a downward spiral.
It's not looking good. It's not looking good for our mate Casado there with this kind of a deep rebuild that they need to do. But hopefully for the better, because like the pieces, honestly, they had some decent results, but the armor failure just destroyed them. And apparently, and obviously, there's things in the background that weren't great. If the team just like went their separate ways, I know there are some rumors about issues with Bleed as an org as well.
I heard those too, yeah.
So probably didn't help the whole situation. And I guess the interpersonal stuff between some of the players kind of overcooked the pooch, as you would like to say.
Well and truly. Do we want to spend any time on these other ones that we spoke about? That you brought up?
Not really. No,
I looked at OG's roster. I think there's some names. Like I think that could be some exciting potential prospects for the future because the team is pretty young overall, but I'm not expecting anything from them in the short term. Like these are players that will probably get poached if they show good performances in a team like OG and go into a better team at some point.
I mean, the next interesting thing is probably where ENCE is going to go. I mean, there's some rumors coming out. I don't know how much there is to them.
Minus Glaive, right?
About Minus Glaive and then naugthy, whatever it's however you pronounce that name. I have no idea.
The French kid, yeah.
Yeah. The one that Apex kind of bigged up, saying he will be on a top team in the next year. I don't remember who was the other guy that they were I think I just heard that on the separately.
Yeah.
So I'm curious where that's going to go because I mean they have all the time that they need really at the moment because I don't even know that are they even at an event? Oh, they're in Espoo. That's the next tournament that they're playing. So they have like a month kind of to figure out. And I'm sure that event isn't like as much as it is like their home tournament. Like it's not going to be a massive priority to get the absolute best lineup that they can possibly have at that.
Well, I guess now that there's going to like if they can beat a team like the Mongols there or a 9Z, right? Like when we're talking about ELO versus ELO for the
it's going to help.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean that's actually true. Yeah, they kind of do need to do well. I take it back.
Yeah, so there are some important events down the stretch here for next year's ranking type of perspective.
Yeah, that's going to be on the cusp, kind of like it's still going to be 2 months before. Well, I guess some of those divides are going to get decided quite a bit before that. So it could actually play a decent factor.
Yeah, right.
Just saw a banger clip, but it's from a stream, so I'll just share it later. This Travis, just a player banging his webcam.
Travis Scott?
Not Travis Scott.
Oh no, I
Travis
saw this.
Umco.
Yeah. I saw that on Reddit before. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, a little bit upset about things. Isn't he? Yeah. All right, let's get into. You happy with the roster?
Yeah, let's finish this up.
All right, what are the odds? So we've got Blast 4 finals. We'll quickly talk about the teams. There's only 8 in attendance, but what are the odds for this week? Is going to be what are the odds Valve releases a update for the birthday? No, that's not the question at all.
0%.
This is presented by 1xBet. What are the odds Astralis will play on stage? So in classic fashion, we want as many teams on stage as possible. So I'm pretty sure that the top 6 teams, thanks to another one of these fucking formats,
they do have Fridays on like in front of audience. So I guess that's what we we just need top 6. So basically, are they going to win a game?
Which would mean they'd have to beat either Vitality, Spirit, or Liquid.
Woof. Woof.
And we also,
imagine if we get Liquid versus Astralis with cadiaN.
Oh,
that'll be fun.
Please, God.
That would be great.
But it's not going to, I don't think it's going to happen with current forms of these players. Yeah.
I don't know. Liquid looked pretty bad against G2, I'll be honest.
Kind of crazy how, like, I'm looking at the odds, and it's kind of crazy how big of an underdog Liquid are in those.
I don't know. I don't like the Liquid looked really rough around. Like, I have faith in the team. I think that they will be a good roster, but I don't know.
Spirit have too. That's just my kind of point because they've also lost some pretty really bad series recently. So it's kind of just insane.
I think Astralis are huge underdogs in both of these against anyone that they play against. So I'm giving 10%.
Damn.
Because we also don't know what's going to happen with cadiaN. Maybe cadiaN's not even playing. Maybe they need to play with Raga. So that's also a factor.
Man, imagine if that happens.
But yeah.
I'm giving 10%.
Okay. Prof submitting 10% on Astralis playing on stage. Okay. Well, yeah, I like your perspective there in the sense that maybe something does happen and cadiaN isn't allowed to play, but that means that's likely going to have to happen within the next 48 hours, right?
Even less.
So because of that, and I don't know, like people in chat are like, Chad, you said nothing was going to happen with Snapchat and then it got banned. And it's like, guys,
Snapchat,
yeah, fucking Snaptap. Sorry, I'm tired. Snaptap, and then it did this. But yeah, okay, I was wrong there. I was wrong about the device thing. I'm probably going to be wrong about this as well. It's fine. I don't care if I'm wrong. I'm just looking at things for how they are. You know.
All right. Give us the number.
I don't. Like, I see what's happened, and they're just kind of doing it in all of our faces quite blatantly, and they're just going to hope that, like everything in the Counter-Strike world, after 48 hours, everybody stops talking about it. So I'm going to go...
Yeah, but they're going to play those 48 hours. All that pressure is still going to be on.
Yeah, I'm going to go 20%, just because I think that they probably will play with cadiaN.
All right. I'm kind of surprised you guys went that low, to be honest. I'm just trying to kind of
I would like
to
give something to our viewers where maybe they could be right. Like if our viewers are crazy and we've given
they're not going to
odds,
vote yes, surely.
Well, then they're going to win fuck all.
Twitch chat 20%, 19%.
19.
I mean, so kind of similar.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to go like 30. It's fairly high, but it's still 2 matches. You know, it's not Spirit or Liquid, as you said, aren't in a crazy form to think that that's not a possibility. Vitality, I think that would be a very big scalp. It's probably a bit too much, but considering where Spirit are, especially, I mean, if they fall there, they've lost series to worse teams than that. Even if it's a new Astralis with a completely different situation, under a lot of pressure, I would say 30. Yeah.
Okay. This is a huge one.
We've never had it like this before, I don't
because
think.
we always pick like middle of the road fucking bullshit stuff.
Well, here's what I would suggest people in Twitch chat. If you do vote on Twitter or X or Instagram, whatever you want to call things, they're all platforms essentially owned by the same people collecting all of our data, which are where this is the main commodity in modern day society. What you should do is, I reckon you should vote for yes. Not because you actually think they will, but because if you do, 250 schmackaroos would get added to the prize purse for you guys that'll get split up and, you know, different goodies will be given away. So make sure you keep giving away all your data for free and also vote yes. That's what I say. That was What Are the Odds, brought to you by 1xBet.
What are the odds?
And you guys aren't even playing with any real money.
We're currently on 382 euros for the season.
Some things finished up, right?
A big one came in with Astralis signing a new IGL in 2024. That was predicted correctly. It was not. It was kind of an underdog pick. And the Stewie 2K thing did not come true. Stewie 2K did not join a team. And that's, again, where you're wrong, Chad, with me. But you were wrong.
I don't remember a time where I was wrong with these, to be honest.
Man, I'm going to be wrong all the time.
I don't think I've been wrong yet. I was the only one who was like going for Stewie, like there's no way he's going to join a team. Also for this Astralis thing.
I'm hoping to be wrong every day for the rest of my life. That's what I'm really hoping for. Just on everything that could possibly exist. I want to be wrong because I don't want to be right, you know? All right. Last little bit. We're going to quickly talk about the tournament. As we've just prefaced, Astralis are there, Liquid are there, Spirit are there, Vitality there. That's Group B. As we also prefaced within the last little segment, if you were paying attention, you would have noted that 6 out of the 8 teams will get an opportunity to play in the playoffs. Now, the reason that is the case is because we have GSL brackets, and from those brackets, the teams who place at the top of their group will be placed straight in towards the semifinals in what is becoming a bit of a classic with formats today, which I hate.
Let's not talk about formats. Let's not talk about formats.
Okay.
They're fucking dog shit, but yes.
So 6 of the teams, 3 per group, will make it. In Group A, we have NAVI versus Falcons and G2 versus FaZe. I would say that NAVI are a guaranteed shoo-in. Now, I think that Falcons are the only team here that I would be comfortable saying don't have a chance, but I've also seen FaZe play recently. So,
yeah, I was going to say it's not completely out of the question they would lose to Falcons, to be honest.
Yeah. So it's most likely Falcons and Astralis are the two teams that don't make it through. Most likely, right?
Yep.
Like if you were going to look at statistics, in terms of then how things could flow, I would say that G2 probably beat FaZe, and then Navi beat Falcons. Navi beat G2, and then that's going to put Navi as the top seed. And then on the other side of the thing, Vitality versus Astralis, Vitality win. Spirit versus Liquid could go either way, but I think Vitality beat either of them.
Okay, I can see that.
And yeah, I think we could. I would like it. I would really like it if we had like a Vitality Navi final again. I know that we just had it with Cologne, but I considering the discourse at the moment, like flip-flopping from week to week, if we see some consistency out of Navi making another final and Vitality, bouncing back after a loss to Eternal Fire, where Apex said, "Yeah, look, I had a bad series," and then they can go toe-to-toe in a final. I'd like that. I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
That'd be
But I mean,
nice.
So that's
honestly,
your storyline.
That's my storyline.
Is Navi against Vitality.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
What about you, Striker?
I mean,
Strikers
one
is
is
mid-tournament. cadiaN gets ripped off the PC as like the legal entity that is hired.
that's probably not going to
Police
happen.
arrests Nikolai Nyholm for making false claims about Bro's illness.
I mean, imagine if they actually do pull it. Like, I mean, it happened with FaZe, right? Where they got told that like 24 hours before they were supposed to play that Config's not going to be able
Config was
to.
there, right? We have
Config was literally at the media day,
at the
and
media
when they
day.
got told that he wouldn't be able to play, so it's not without precedent for Blast to set things. Maybe not right, but at least to change their minds about something. So it's not impossible. I mean, that would be a storyline. That would be a huge storyline if we just had Raga playing it in 24
I think
hours
that
before
has
that.
to be your storyline. That has to be.
It
your
is. I
storyline.
mean, I've been talking about it for like half an hour, so might as well go with that.
Yeah. I'll plug in the potential Astralis cadiaN versus Liquid game.
Okay.
That would be a banger. I'm gonna be hoping for that one.
So both of them lose their opening round.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot on the
I
line
mean,
in that type of a game.
could see that for sure. Anyway,
That'd be nice. Yeah, that's definitely possible. I think with a lot on the line, it could be fun. I think obviously the stakes are lower for Astralis because it's just come together, but also being in Denmark probably plays into it a
playing
lot.
in front of their own crowd would be still big, right? I mean, they also pulled some crazy shit to be able to play with this lineup, so it's clearly an important tournament for them in some way. Like they don't. If it wasn't, they would just roll over and play with Bro, right? Or Rugga.
Yeah. All right. Well, more Counter-Strike coming this week, everybody. Look at that. It's not exciting. This is what next year's going to be like. Every week, you wake up on a Monday and you talk about the next tournament that's going to be happening in a couple of days' time. That's going to be pretty classic.
Yeah. I'm curious about, by the way, like in terms of the roster rules we were talking about, I mean, next year especially, it's going to be difficult for teams to make roster changes like with some decent lead time before tournaments. So either TOs make changes to those rules, or we're going to see a hell of a lot more dead teams playing at tournaments. So let's just say that.
Well, yeah, but isn't that something that happens with like Dota? Or usually what happens, actually, no. What happens with Dota is after TI, all the rosters change. That tends to be how it goes, which ours could happen more frequently. I wonder, though, if teams just stick together for like seasons and then they change it after the majors, because now it's going to make a lot of sense. But anyway, everyone happy?
Yeah.
All right. Nice. Well, we had a new overlay, technically Season 7. I think things look nice.
Shout out to Layer Pavel, who did the graphics, and Optics, the video editor, for the work on the intro and the background, and Matt, and our people in sales who managed to sell this so we can afford to do cool shit all the time.
Yeah, it looks nice. It looks good. And yeah, we'll have a couple of things. I guess we'll do an episode next week.
Yeah, like Tuesday probably, if you reply.
Yeah, I'm around. I'm there.
Let us know what you like, how you like the new thing, the whole new HUD. I like it.
Oh yeah. There's a vote you can do on HLTV. Yeah, Lucas, we never forget about you. Great job, Lucas. Keep being you, Lucas. All right. Lucas is staying at the office. He's sleeping there tonight. Anyway, we're going to go. Thanks to 1xBet. Remember to gamble responsibly. And Skin Place if you're in the market to sell your skins. This has been another episode of HLTV Confirmed. We'll be back next week. Good night.
Changing, but one thing remains the same: victories with 1xBet.
Sell in-game items at the best prices in just a couple of clicks. We are the biggest instant sell service for in-game items like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, and Rust. Easy selling process and instant withdrawal of funds to the most popular payment methods. More than 140,000 deals and 50,000 active sellers every month. Use promo code HLTV5 and get a 5% bonus on the sale of your skins. Skin Place. Sell items now.
Since the dawn of CSGO, we have been there. Observers of all that competition can reveal. Elation, fear, triumph, and heartache reach out from every frame. From the small studios and conference rooms to the epic arenas, the feeling is still the same. We live and breathe this game. This was CSGO Through the Lens. Buy now at hltv.org/shop.